At one gig, a butcher was literally chasing my sister with a cleaver. He wanted to chop the cable because it was shaking his shop so much when we were doing You Made Me Realize. The police turned up and arrested our tour manager during You Made Me Realize. They arrested him, put him in the car, questioned him, and let him go. And when he got back, we were still playing it. Countless situations. Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, one artist at a time. It's a whole new discography per episode. My name is Michael Mansour, and I'm joined, as always, by my excited, impatient, and happy co-host, Alexander Volts. Say hello.
Hello.
And today, we'll be discussing every album by
My Bloody Valentine.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that we have a stranger who wandered in the set. Alex, would you like to do the honors introducing our buddy?
This is friend of the podcast. I like to consider a real friend now, Jamil. He came out to LA once. We got some Fat Sal's. We went to Amoeba, went to an Arm & Hammer show. Good times.
Jamil, say hello.
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me.
How'd you like Fat Sal's? That place is absolutely one of my favorite spots in all of it. I mean, I love Fat Sal's.
I think we split a sandwich, did we not? It was very acute.
We got a fat sandwich and like some chili fries or whatever monstrosity they
To me, it's the greatest. It's sandwiches of sides, and it's called Fat Sal's, but it's sandwiches of sides.
Yeah, I believe we did one with tenders in it. I was like, if we're gonna do this, you got to get one with chicken tenders in it.
Yeah, it was super good. Yeah. I think our thinking was like, we don't want to like load ourselves up too much. Like nothing worse than like being at a show and you're just like fucking bloated and miserable. So it was super good though. Yeah, good LA Eats.
So why are you on the show today, Jamil?
Oh, well, it's kind of like winning, going on The Price is Right or something, right? Like, for like fucking music nerds. No, I don't know. Probably like pestering Alex like too much. Maybe that's the reason.
I have been wanting to do it ever since I was on your podcast. Is it on hiatus? Fair to say hiatus right now.
Yeah.
The Sonic Cloth. We tackled the indie hip hop label Anticon, and he had reached out and he's like, I kind of do these like weird, obscure things. And I was like, I don't know. Have you ever heard of Anticon? And he's like, I fucking love Anticon. And like, yeah, it was like ever since then, like I've known him for ages. It felt like once we bonded over that.
Magic.
It is like, it is like an instance of music bringing people together.
Hell yeah. I think it's safe to say, is Jamil your Tom, Alex?
He is my Tom, although I guess I'm a little slutty. Jamil's the only person I've met in real life, although another listener, Chase is really cool. He sent me and Mike some artwork, and he's someone else that I'll like confide in over other things.
How do you feel about that, Jamil? Flattered. Yes, I'm flattered.
But
I'm happy to be your Tom, even if I'm not quite aware of what that is. But I'll take it as a compliment.
Our history guy,
Tom. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Tom Osman. Very good friends.
Yeah,
were you thinking visit him?
Were you thinking like the drum Tom right now?
Oh, because you're a drummer. Yeah, that could have been it too. Yeah, Tom and Jerry too went through my head for some stupid reason.
Oh yeah.
So My Bloody Valentine. All right, this is probably a long time coming episode, and our original intent was we're busy. Been a busy first month of the year. Alex is going to be going on a trip. Let's do something short that people are going to enjoy, that we're probably going to enjoy. 3 albums, easy. And then I got bombarded with people saying, you're going to cover all the EPs, right? I'm like, yeah, sure, a couple EPs. Most of the discography is fucking EPs. So we had to reorient things, and we're doing all the goddamn EPs. We're doing all the stuff, all right? It's fine. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff today, even early stuff.
Also, I don't want to catch any flack like the... what was that hip hop group we did and we didn't do?
Oh, Injury Reserve? We fucked up. We're sorry. We'll do loose ends.
Yeah, we'll correct that one day. I didn't want another Injury Reserve situation, so I'm glad people spoke up and we got these EPs in.
One of the better reasons to be on the Patreon, because they knew this episode was coming and they let us know beforehand so that the episode wouldn't fucking suck. But so really, this is one of the most interesting and all over the place discographies that we've covered in a while. Maybe in the history of the show, one of them. I mean, top to bottom, what the fuck is happening? And I had a lot of. I've heard some of this stuff a whole lot when I was younger. I don't remember how old, 13, 14, and probably 14, probably 13. Who cares? And I will say that I know this band is beloved, extremely beloved. So I made sure to listen to everything first before reading about anything. I wanted to have my own opinions. Everything stuck out to me. And I'm going to say right now, my feelings are my own. I don't agree with the world. I don't know what the fuck the world is on. It seems so obvious to me, but apparently it's not to everyone else, or it's vice versa. It's obvious to the world, but not to me. Who cares? It's all fun. I still like the fucking band. Let's enjoy our time. Fellas?
For me, I feel like I listened to the band through like osmosis, through like skate videos, but never took the time to really give them a listen. And I'm like flabbergasted. I don't know why it took so long to do this. I like the band. My pick's probably more aligned with popular opinion, I guess. And then there's some surprising developments early on that I had no idea we were going to get into. So yeah, that's my history. But yeah, I would think for how much I like Blonde Redhead and Deaf Heaven, hey, I should listen to one of probably the most famous shoegaze band of all time, right?
Easily one of the most influential bands of all time. And I can safely say because this discography goes a lot of places, I am absolutely in love with a lot of this, and the stuff that I remember hearing as a kid, it brought things out of me that I forgot about, and it's like, oh, whoa, and I have like a newfound appreciation because I enjoyed it then, but it was always just in the background. I always overheard my brother listening to it, but now I can safely say this is how I feel. Jamil, your experience?
Yeah, so for me, prior to like this deep listening exercise, I liked My Bloody Valentine a lot. I have Isn't Anything and Loveless on vinyl. I came onto them kind of like when I discovered like 90s indie rock in like the 2000s, just based on my age. So like that's obviously one of the big cornerstone albums you go to, right? Because My Bloody Valentine is kind of one of those bands that is forever connected to like a single album despite having like several releases, like I feel like Jeff Buckley's in this category. Well, he's only got a couple albums. Like American Football, that's the big one too. It's like the one album.
I get what you mean. Like they kind of do have a rich history, but prior to 2013, to this day, I get what you mean. It's the one album, but yeah, it was like that's what they were known for.
So I don't know much of the lore about like what the world thought of them nearly as much. I know I knew just their impact as a band way more than the album, So whenever I thought of My Bloody Valentine or shoegazing, I just thought of the generalized, all right, the guitar stuff, the band with the guitar stuff, which is mostly true, but the one album kind of thing is more new to me for this listen and this experience.
It's Loveless, like.
Well, yeah, of course, obviously.
Yeah, but yeah. Have you ever seen them live, Jamil? My friend Hillary said they were irresponsibly loud.
I actually have seen them live. I saw them at FYF Fest out in LA.
Oh, okay.
The year that they played, which I think was 2013, I'm going to say something like that.
Yeah.
And yes, like I remember it being excruciatingly loud, and I was incredibly far away from them. And it was, of course, like an outdoor fest. So I was like, my mind was kind of blown that they could pull that off in like an open air setting. But yeah, a lot of the lore like that Mike's talking about, and this band's got a lot of lore. Like once you go into it, was that they were like irresponsibly, as you said, like loud in the early days.
Definitely super. I mean, breaking. There's a quote that we're going to get to in a little bit, of them breaking the venue a little bit, like literally physically breaking the venue. And one thing I noted at some point was, I don't remember which album or which song it was, but it was like, man, I sure wouldn't enjoy this band live, but I love this. Like, I can definitely see how that would be. Oh yeah, it's its own kind of thing. The way a Swan show would beat the fuck out of you with its power and the sound. You're not really hearing the notes really in there so much. You're mostly hearing just a bunch of noise. But if you're going to the show to hear the notes of the song, you're probably not going to get that much out of it. You're going to get something else.
I've been to a Sun concert. I want to see. I don't know if they're still playing show. I want to see My Bloody Valentine live just to like live through it, I guess.
That's quite
by
an
all accounts, they I mean, like, they were extremely good when I saw them. By all accounts, like back in the day, like they rocked too. Like they were a really good live band.
I also just learned the where the term shoegaze came from, and it just delighted my soul. Apparently it was coined by some music journalist. I mean, as a lot of these things are, because when these bands would play, they would stand there on stage motionless, staring at the ground. So they're shoegazing. I thought, that's clever. I like that.
I never thought of it. It's just something I've just accepted and didn't really think about.
It doesn't make any sense as a word, like for sound. That's why I was like, there's got to be a fucking reason.
I don't know. In my head, it makes sense for some reason. I just never I guess like the gazing part of it, right? Like it's just this wall of noise, so you get lost in it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's kind of an insult, though, when you think about it, right? Like, because that's like a not very charismatic or like fun live band to see. I thought maybe it was like they're fucking with their pedals too, so they're just looking down the whole time. It
also makes sense. A lot more sense. And so we also have some notes here from our boy Tom Osman that we mentioned earlier. Our history guy does a bunch of work for us. We have two interviews with Kevin Shields, one from The Guardian in 2021, and the other one with NPR from 2018, and then another My Bloody Valentine interview with Uncut from 2021. And well, where they start is so bafflingly not. So I hit play on the first record, and I don't know. I think I yelled something like, "What the fuck is this?" Nothing could have prepared me for that. Nothing could have prepared. For one, there's some fucking dude singing, some fucking Lux Interior knockoff singing. Although I do think he's a better singer than Lux Interior. We'll get into it in a little bit.
Yes, the psychobilly stuff really threw me for a loop. Were you aware that they had this dark past?
No, I had no idea. I had never listened to anything prior to Isn't Anything, actually. So I'm very much like, I love this band, but I just never went deep with them. So I was as shocked as Mike. I was immediately like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this sounds like super shitty Gun Club. Like, what's going on?
So this band went through so many things before they became what we know. I mean, so much shit. So this piece, it says, even at the start, My Bloody Valentine story was informed by a degree of chaos, arriving from Queens, New York, and Cabinteely County, Dublin. Jesus Christ. There's going to be a lot of words I'm going to fuck up, because there's a lot of Irish in this, and full-on Gaelic Irish that I can't pronounce worth a damn, but I can do my best. Yeah, Kevin Shields discovered punk rock began shortly after his 14th birthday, and he says the first song I ever played on guitar was Buzzcocks' Harmony in My Head. And then it says, at school, a fellow student in Shields' kung fu class. I'm going to say that again.
Nice.
At school, a fellow student in Shields' kung fu class happened to be getting a band together. He already had the attention of Colm Kyosoig. I think that's how you say his name, Colm Kyosoig. Jesus Christ, there's so many accents and there's so many O's and C's. An enthusiastic drummer with no immediate expertise. And then he says, the first rehearsals Colm and I did, he didn't even know about a beat. he was just hitting his drums randomly and I didn't know about tuning. This makes a lot of sense, actually.
I feel like everybody needs that, though. I think the demand to like be a good musician instantaneously amongst your peers is a lot of pressure. We're not all prodigies like Mike.
I don't count. I had no choice. It was around me. It was damn near forced upon me. But yeah, because there was a lot of moments in here where it's like, okay, he's just being a drummer. He's cool, fine. And then some moments like, oh, that's pretty good. And the other moments are like, is he fucking up a lot? Like, is he just constantly fucking? Is he? So I was actually confused. Like, how much of him fucking up was intentional? I don't think any of it was, actually, now that I'm reading this.
Probably not. And you know, coming off that like the Void episode, yeah, it's just, I don't know. And at my age, it's just nice hearing people play wrong.
It is endearing, as the great King Buzzo once said. We have enough songs with people hitting the right notes. You can hit the wrong notes.
On the drummer thing, also, like, not to reveal too much, but later on in the discography, at some points you're like, do they still have a drummer? Like, what's going on here?
Yes,
that does happen. It does happen sometimes, and I guess that makes sense too.
This quote is a delightful little glimpse at what the fuck Kevin Shields is. Shields found himself asked to leave one group after he discovered a phaser pedal. And he says, I was so fascinated by the sound, I didn't want to turn it off. I enjoyed moving past the point of reason.
Okay, yeah. It's so funny, the journey they have, but also very early on, it's like, yes, all of this makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And in the first records, he's not really guitar-wise, it's pretty damn normal. It takes a while before it starts getting interesting. But even then, the seeds were there, man. They were planted.
It's also nice to know, because I'm like, what made them do this? And you know, it's these stories.
100%. As for the earliest incarnation of the band, like we hinted at earlier, they have a singer. And this guy is interesting. So his name is David Conway. It says an advertisement placed in a local record shop drew the attention of David Conway, who became their singer in summer 1983. Column says he was crazy, a bit like Lux Interior. It was great to have a wild man up front. It made the gigs a bit more fun. You don't say he was a bit like Lux Interior.
Although, to be fair, like, how diverse can you get doing this, like, rockabilly, psychobilly? Because even like a birthday party, like the vocals are very much like this thing.
Absolutely
right?
not. You're insane if you think the birthday party vocals are like tame, like or
they're not
predictable,
tame.
Or like Nick Cave is doing so many things in birthday party. He does so many different modes of his. Yeah,
you're saying there's like there's an inflection, the deep, like
there is
that little thing. I know what you mean by that. Yeah, I think birthday party was just in a league of its own, though.
I mean, obviously, but birthday party also does love that, like, dirty, like, grimy cramp. I almost feel weird calling it rockabilly, because
it's not at all rockabilly. No, the Cramps are rockabilly. The birthday party is its own fucking thing. I've always had the most trouble kind of describing their birthday party, just the way they sound or what to even put them with. They're just one of those bands I can't do anything with. Like, I love them more than life. I mean, I can't explain them to anything.
But the rockabilly influence is there.
There's for sure. There's like little hints of it. It's just somehow covered in a pile of garbage, delicious garbage, I swear. But check it out on the birthday party from a million years ago. It says the band, not yet called My Bloody Valentine, played their first gig on August 18th at a small Dublin venue, the Ivy Rooms. The name arrived a short while later, suggested by Conway in the bar of Dublin's North Star Hotel. Gigs and lineup changes followed, but alas, we weren't popular in Ireland, relates Shields.
I could have swore they were British. Like, when I started this episode and found out they were Irish, it kind of blew my mind a little bit.
It's a mix. There's a mix of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Belinda is English, right? Yeah.
I think it's Googe, Debbie Googe.
Oh,
Belinda might be English as well. You know, you're right. Yeah, she's also English. It's Googe, right? Not Goog. I'm so bad with names from other places.
We should just call everyone from Ireland and or Magooch after the.
We're all Magooch. They're all Magooch. That's a
They're
reference to
all
our
Magooch.
Susan the Banshees episode. And then of course Kevin is from New York, so it's a nice. It was I saw Ireland, but it's like really only one of them is Irish, which is kind of interesting. It says taking advice from Virgin Prunes frontman Gavin Friday, hell of a name. They moved to the Netherlands. In Holland, you get paid by the government for gigs, even if there's no one there. Says Okoisoig. Or Kiosoig. I'm just gonna say call him. I'm just gonna say call him. I can't do his fucking name. It was like a union fee, I guess. We sent a demo tape. We got one gig and decided to emigrate. And then they got Tina Durkin on Casio keyboards instead of bass. So that's kind of what they started at, or what they started out as. Very, very odd stuff.
Also, Holland sounds amazing. I wonder if there's no way they still pay people to play live music, right? Maybe, I don't know.
I highly doubt it. I know in a lot of places like that, like in Canada, they have arts programs where they do pay bands to just be but there's the thing. It's like an amazing thing, but it also has a lot of limitations, a lot of censorship involved. There's like a lot of. I mean, when you work for the government, you're not going to have full reign, no matter what country it is. But it does allow like a little niche for creativity, which pretty refreshing, and valuable for like a band like Godspeed and stuff. But yep, so that's the lineup for the first record. David Conway on vocals, Kevin Shields on guitar, Tina Durkin on keyboards, and Colin on drums.
Are you going to intro these, or are we just going to talk about them?
I'm going to intro the first one.
Okay.
Because it's long enough.
Okay.
The others are like 10 minutes. But today we're going to be discussing how many are we discussing? Let me count this. Today we're going to be discussing 11 records, technically 12 records, but one of them is compiled on, it's a compilation with 2-on-1. 11 records, 11 and a half records. Jesus Christ. So, okay. We give our picks for best and worst, what we think our best album is, worst album is, our personal favorites, our personal least favorites. There's so many EPs, they're all up for grabs. We're excluding 2 EPs from our picks because they're so short, they're so early, they're so fucking we're going to talk about them because we listen to them, but we're not going to include them in the picks. It feels a little unfair. I think they would obviously get default worst if that was the case. So, first one, 1985, most recent, 2013, and they have been, because Kevin Shields is known to do this, to keep teasing new music for like decades before something comes out. Maybe we'll have the EAE curse or gift of as soon as we do an episode on it, they fucking reunite and do a thing. It just happened with Acid Bath. That's pretty crazy, huh?
2025 is the year of Acid Bath, D'Angelo, and My Bloody Valentine. All three
it's
of
gonna
them.
happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Hell yeah. So, without further ado, are you boys ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Oh boy. This is 1985's This Is Your Bloody Valentine.
Kind of just want to watch some Twin Peaks listening to this part.
Spy riff.
It is a spy riff, yeah.
It's a spy riff.
Well, they say that no love,
And it's just Lux Interior.
but sometimes
What the fuck is this?
I've been waiting
You know,
and again.
once it gets going, there's still like a layer of weirdness to it. Not as weird as we're gonna get, but
This yearning seems to last.
Honestly, it's not that bad.
No self-consumed.
I don't hate this as a novelty.
I don't hate it. I don't think it's like anything special, but I don't hate it.
So this is 1985, right? So is this while the Cramps are active, like as a band?
Yeah,
it is, right?
They cited the singer, right?
Yeah. All the influences for these early records, or this record specifically, they're so obvious to point out, and they say them by name. So this is gonna be a long episode. I'm not gonna leave more than that because we get the idea pretty much. Very bizarre, strange.
Also, you said this one's up for grabs, but it still feels like cheating to me. So I'm just gonna let it coast on by.
This is my worst. This is my worst least.
Yeah, worst least favorite. This is like, I mean, so I don't hate this record, honestly. And if we were including every single EP in our picks, a different one would get it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna talk about it very shortly. They're not far away. I think this isn't the worst thing they've ever done, but I think it's still pretty bad. Like the second half, I think is pretty bad.
I agree. It's really jarring too. Also thinking I'm gonna get like indie alternative stuff, and it's this rockabilly stuff. It did make me like question my love of Murder City Devils, which isn't full rockabilly, but there is some of that like grimy, simplistic rock and roll there.
Your thoughts, Jamil, when sitting through the entirety of this for the first time?
Yeah, I genuinely had no idea that they started out this way, so this was very jarring. So of course, my first reaction was like incredibly negative. When like looking back, I should have just thought it was funny, like at the worst. But I had like this irrational, like, what are they doing? I think it's because I kind of like have bought into the lore and thinking this is like fully realized sort of project out the gate. So this is what happens when you like do really selective listening, and what like these sort of deeper exercises like really stretch out and contextualize everything for you. I agree with you, Mike. Like it's certainly like it's serviceable, you know? If they were like, I don't know if like they were in the punk scene in the UK or something, like if that's the case, like this probably wouldn't be like a shitty band to like go and see live, or even like, you know, cop the mini album or anything like that. But in the context of like MVB, like what they would become, it's a little whack to me.
I honestly, yeah, I think I will say I like it a lot more than the Cramps. I mean, a lot more than the Cramps. Fuck yeah, dude. Take is like, I mean, 10 times out of 10 over any Cramps album. That's gonna get me shot. But I don't care. They're fucking rockabilly fans.
I almost thought about saying that, but then I was like, you know what? This is like there's an end in sight, and particularly for this EP, it's short. So, like, I only have to endure, like, I know it's short-lived, and that's why I said I don't mind it as a novelty. However, if it went on and on and on, I'd probably feel different.
Yeah. The Cramps, the biggest problem that we have with the Cramps, I mean, they just didn't change at all. It was a long discography. It is novel, and it's not that bad. So it's not just the Cramps, that it's also a lot of Birthday Party. I mean, like, Don't Cramp My Style. I mean, I'm sure the word cramp being in the title, I'm sure that was a coincidence. But that song is like, it's just a significantly less good Birthday Party. Including like the screams. He's trying to do like the wild screams that Nick Cave would do. It just feels you can hear all the influences, like a copy and paste influence. Like, I listen to this band, I'm going to write a song that sounds like that. Not so much I listen to this band and it's informing my own creativity. It feels like very copy and pasted.
I will say it's interesting that a lot of bands, like their earlier stuff isn't recorded and they're allowed to like grow a little bit. But now, for how easy it is to record music, now there's probably going to be more instances like this where everyone's recording everything, and you're going to have these like artists like decades from now where I think it'll be like a little more common, where you could go to like their earliest stuff and be like hear where they started and be like, what a wild turn that is.
I always end up finding those discographies way more comforting, because you start out with a high note and then you see like the gradual decline. Those are depressing, man. The gradual declines were like, oh, this album is pretty good, not quite as good. The next one, like, oh, it's not quite as good as that. And those hurt. When it starts out like, what the fuck is this? And then it grows into something amazing. It feels like a Rocky story.
I think that is better too.
Do you guys hear any like Kevin Shields sort of like noisy sort of like impulses on any of these tracks, or do you think it's like totally divorced from that? Like he's not coming into his own quite yet?
No, I can hear it on Don't Cramp My Style. I think that like gets noisier, so you can like hear it there. I think Tiger in My Tank gets a little bit fuzzier. So although you wouldn't like listen to the band as it is in this form and be like, oh, I knew they were gonna like grow into that. There are like little hints there.
I would say hints, definitely more than anything. Like there's nothing obvious about, oh, this guitar player is going to do something super innovative in a few years. You don't get that.
No,
You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, that's a little interesting part there. That's kind of cool. You get kind of cool. That's all you get from this.
Like with his quote from earlier, you can kind of tell this is a guy who likes to tinker. Like he's not this like leaving it on the default settings.
Yeah, for sure.
The Doors vibe on The Last Supper
100%.
is pretty funny.
Yes, 100%. Wrote the same thing.
It's probably the breeziest, and also I kind of felt like they were going for some Morrissey vocals in that one as well.
Vocals on the outro did make me laugh. Yes.
Just like
Mike, you said you like Dave Conway as a singer? You think he's all right?
I think he's, from a technical standpoint, he's a fine singer. He knows how to sing properly. For the thing that he's doing, for being the Lux Interior unoriginal kind of knockoff that he's being, he's fine at it. I don't mind him. I'm not upset by his voice. I think he's completely unoriginal. I think the whole thing is mostly unoriginal, but I don't think he's bad. It's just not my thing at all.
I think he's okay. I wonder who's doing do you think he's double tracking the background vocals? Because those get kind of rough sometimes.
It says on Wiki, at least, that Kevin is doing the backing vocals.
Kevin. Okay.
Yeah. So
sorry, Kevin.
Well, he's, by his own admission, he's never sung before, and he was like, when he decided to take over vocals, that was like a bold move on his part.
Right.
But yeah, both my and Jamil's worst and least favorites. It's easy worst because it doesn't make any fucking sense at all. And you should only check it out for the novelty of it, I would say.
And yeah, you both are correct, but I'm not going to go the easy.
He's choosing war.
I am choosing war this episode.
So we can move on a little bit to the following two EPs, because Conway's not done. Conway is here until 1987, which it blew my fucking mind. Like,
it's a good chunk.
It's a good chunk.
If you want to play this kind of music, like I think you could do far worse.
Far worse. Again, he's not a bad singer. Like, he's got a pretty good voice. It's just what he's doing that I don't like. So also from 1985, we have the Geek EP.
Yes.
4 songs. And if this was being counted, this would be my absolute worst. I think this just sucks.
It's 100% agree.
It is grating because like the novelty of the rockabilly is like, I'm over it. I don't want to hear any more of it. But I do think on this Geek EP, you can hear the incrementally inching towards the like 60s pop rock sounds they will bring in. And I do think you get some more of that, like playing around with noise and sound on the track Moonlight, because it's like that Kristen Hayter album Saved, where like the track sounds like you just took like an old dusty gritty 45 and put it like right on, that's been aged. But I don't think that, I don't think the rip was like, I think it's meant to sound that way. So those two little tidbits are really all that's here.
Yeah, I find the guitar tone on this, even though it's like only like 10 minutes long, it's like persistent the whole way through, like you're saying, Alex. And it's very like metallic sounding, but it's very unpleasant in my opinion. It reminds me of like one of their biggest influences, Jesus and Mary Chain. The album Psycho Candy has that same sort of a similar, but I think much more tasteful kind of like crackly distortion that runs through like so much of the guitar parts, but it's cool and sort of stylish. But this is just grating to me.
I found it to be grating as well. The 60s-ness on here was damn near offensive. I like me some 60s garage rock, fine, but boy, and not 1985. Like it just felt like, okay, we're just gonna do 60s garage rock. And if you look at the cover of the EP, it looks like it was super duper intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Like they look like a fucking 60s band. I mean, the hair alone looks so 60s, the font, everything. So it feels even more disappointingly just so I keep saying unoriginal, but at least the first mini album EP thing, whatever, at least This Is Your Bloody Valentine. Yes, they like the Cramps and they like the Birthday Party, but there are still moments, there's like wiggle room in that. At least it feels a little bit more fresh. Birthday Party feels a lot more interesting to copy than the fucking Strawberry Alarm Clock. Like this, it's so like, why? I don't understand this. I just don't understand why it exists.
I think it is them caught in two worlds almost, and like the next one makes a bigger jump. So
might as well talk about the next one. The next one came out in 1986, and that one is the new record by My Bloody Valentine. And this is the only, well, there's a few things about this one, but one thing that stuck out to me immediately is Conway he's singing differently now. He sounds like a gentle Englishman instead of Lux Interior now.
Yeah, the Elvis shtick is gone. And now he sounds like a kind of a flat Morrissey or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that flatness or like that monotone is something they'll carry throughout their career. But yeah, to me, like the way you feel, Mike, about the last one, like this one is more 60s to me. The version I was streaming, the album cover, I think it was like the Beatles on the cover. And I can hear, some of those like early Beatles sounds here. There's things that almost have like a punk quality to them. By the Danger in Your Eyes is almost a Ramones song. So
it's funny you say the Beatles thing, because I believe they do that on the next record, the next two records, something almost exactly like what you're saying, but
yeah,
strangely not on this one. Yeah, so you're right. The 60s is still here. It's still, thing is, where on on Geek, I thought, oh yeah, 60s garage rock. First thing I think of is American 60s garage rock, whatever. On this one, I thought, oh, it's English 60s garage rock now, because they do have different style. They sound differently. So it's just like, oh, you just traded one for the fucking other one. God,
I think they're making better choices. And they obviously he had to switch up his vocal style because that's not going to work on like tracks like this. Like,
sure.
And I think this is a recording where they're like just in their infancy of starting to approach what I think is like anyone who listens to MVB would whether they like them or not would kind of like, you kind of have to call them like two things. They're like loud and pretty, right? Like,
yes,
they're kind of both those things, and they're like starting to reach for that a little bit here. Like that track "When So Beautiful," I think gets kind of close to what we're going to hear on some of the EPs that are upcoming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean "We're So Beautiful"? It's a typo on YouTube. I did the same exact thing.
Oh,
it's called "We're So Beautiful." I thought the same thing. Yeah. That's like the only song on the album where the guitar stuck out to me. Like I see it more. Whereas the very first EP had hints, this has like ideas. Like, oh, okay. This little bit of the stepping stones. You could see the traces of where they're gonna go on the instrumental sections there.
This is almost a band that you can hear grow I know it's not real time, but listening to this whole discography does give that illusion. Like if you were a psychopath and you could like listen to the whole discography in one sitting, I don't think one thing to the next would be jarring at all. Like it all kind of makes perfect sense.
I think there's one jump that's pretty nuts. And we're not there yet, but I do think there's one jump that's like, okay, you can, if you knew, if you let's say you knew the trajectory already, then you can connect the dots. If you're going in completely blind, I think there's still one jump that's like, where the fuck did this come from? How did this happen? I still think it's a pretty wild one from the next. Not as wild as like a talk talk or something. Like that's the wildest.
That's like an all timer. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
The 60s, obviously the 60s thing is very very evident here in terms of like whether it's they're aping UK 60s or like English or American rather. But like in reading about shoegaze, which I'd never really done before, apparently like one of the big influences that makes a lot of sense is like 60s like psychedelic and sort of fuzzy rock. And I think it's not really like they kind of stripped out like the blues from it and instead are really taking the fuzziness, the sort of like those early sort of effects pedals and sort of aesthetic and lead choices and in atmosphere. That's the word I'm looking for, basically. So it's interesting that like shoegaze like reaches back to the 60s for like that sort of fuzziness and you know those types of sounds, but like what we're given here is really just like songbook 60s, like sort of like boilerplate kind of like verse chorus verse, like very charming, very upbeat kind of stuff, right?
Definitely.
They're kind of playing it straight, but then they would go on to become these like, you know, shoegaze like innovators or whatever.
Yeah, the least straight band ever. Obviously, we don't get Conway forever, and he's gone after this. So it says, this piece says, the band was growing restless in their direction. Then, shortly after a tour in 1987, Conway decided to leave. Shields was now unsure how best to manage the situation, take on lead vocals himself, or was a more radical approach necessary. As Shields sees it, the arrival of Googe and Butcher, while 2 years apart, necessitated a change, not just in the band's personal dynamic, but also their sound. The music quartet first made together a single, Strawberry Wine, and a mini album, Ecstasy, both in 1987, was, they all agree, necessarily transitional. Stylistically, the song shared a number of attributes with the jangly independent music of the mid-'80s. Now, this is where we get Shields and Butcher sharing vocals, and I would say the first big jump musically. And this compilation is called Ecstasy and Wine. It was released in 1989, but like I said, both things were really originally released in 1987. I think this package was released without the band's consent, which is interesting. I didn't realize that. And it also makes sense because it's not streaming anywhere. You still got to kind of click around YouTube to find it. But without further stalling, this is 1987's Ecstasy and Wine.
Like pristine 60s pop music.
Combined with like a little bit of Smiths.
Oh, with the vocals? Yeah.
I like the vocals better.
I mean, it's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, this shit jangles hard.
It's nice. It's kind of nice.
There's like a level of like Simon and Garfunkel to it that
A tad.
No.
I don't hate that though, as we know.
No. Yeah. No, I'd rather listen to this than Simon and Garfunkel.
It's a little, it's kind of, it's jangly but kind of sad, right?
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, like, and it's totally the female vocals doing that. Like, if it was just the guy vocals, it'd probably be another like cookie cutter affair.
I think it's actually kind of well written. I think it's got a melancholy to it that I quite like.
But yeah, I don't know why this one isn't. I kind of get it. It doesn't feel canon, but it makes more sense than the other ones. So I think it should be available.
Yeah, it should be available. This kind of bridges the gap a little bit. Where if this was the first record, I would not be fucking flabbergasted. This would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
More grounded.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I just think they level it up a lot on this one. The bad thing is, I think it's not still not very noisy, and it actually maybe even be a little less noisy than the last EP, which I don't think any of us particularly enjoyed. But I think the Birds when I hear a track like that, right?
Totally.
And it's almost like a little bit of like a punked up version of the Birds, which makes me think of like, you know, like a band like Husker Du, like covering the Birds or something like that, right?
Yeah, I still think there's some gothiness to it, just with the pristine guitars on there, where when it's that shiny, it just makes me think of like Never Say Goodbye. Really reminds me of The Cure, not the gothiest form of The Cure, but just like The Cure.
Yeah, I was gonna say with that song, like that's easy to listen to a song like that and imagine a world where they sound more like the Pixies than like developing their trademark style. So
yeah, so the first 3 tracks are from the. I already forgot the name of the fucking EP. What the hell is it? Strawberry Wine. Duh. It's literally the title track. The first 3 tracks are from the Strawberry Wine single, and then starting at She Loves You No Less is where Ecstasy begins. Yeah, they're I think they were differently received. Like I think Ecstasy wasn't that well received, but this all feels like it goes together pretty well. Like these two feel very similar to me, like just in approach.
they do complement each other, and I could see how Strawberry Wine was received not as good because
It's the opposite.
Oh, never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about then.
I will say that I'm not a fan of Kinda Touchy because that 60s shit is back in full force.
That one's a little pedestrian for me.
Ooh, pedestrian. Ouch.
Damn.
I'm reaching in the dictionary and the thesaurus this year.
The Things I Miss is very solid. But it really reminds me of the Jesus and Mary Chain, who I knew that they were like basically worshipped that band in some sense. It also, I feel like, you know, this album feels very like really injecting Belinda into the mix, right? And so it may be a little, they're still sort of figuring that out, I think, a little bit, but probably just playing to her strengths. She's a great vocalist. She can harmonize really well. Like
I will say the Things I Miss, I do like bringing in the electronics and fuzz on that because you were talking about how the noise factor was almost stripped off this album, but you do get a little bit of it on that track.
At least out the gate, felt like one of the heaviest things that they've done yet. And heavy is not a word I would often use to describe this band, but there were moments where it's like there's some beef to it. And yeah, overall, I did like the song. It does, you know, the things that you're mentioning that it hints at their influences, it still does that, but it's just showing more character. And this whole thing had way more energy in it than I was expecting it to, even though it has a lot of stuff that really, it's just not like a really remarkable record or anything or super innovative. It's just kind of nice and well done for what it is.
It's cool for big fans of the band. Like I would say, if I'm assuming like a lot of people haven't really sought this stuff out. I think if you're a big My Bloody Valentine fan, it's worth seeking out.
Yeah, you can feel that they're really close to becoming like My Bloody Valentine. You know what I mean? Like they're right on the edge there. But I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, this was released on Creation Records, the first release on Creation Records. And I know the name, but I looked at like the roster, and it's just like every UK like alt rock and like dream pop band like that ever existed. It's like Jesus and Mary Chain, Felt, Oasis, Primal Scream, like the most blokey kind of like kind of stuff out there. So I don't know. I could, you know, I would hope that they'd be like opening up for the Cocteau Twins or something at this point. You know, I feel like they'd be solid in that slot.
Yeah, that would be cool. I do think another note wild track on here is Claire with you get that like wall sound here. It's one of my favorite tracks off this compilation.
100%. That's easily one of my favorites because it starts out with this heaviness in the intro, and then the verses go really pretty and pretty wimpy, but they remind me of classic Pink Floyd, just in like the style of writing. But in the choruses, they have, who the fuck is that on violin? Nick Brown, I guess, on violin, playing the violin incorrectly, but amazingly.
Yes.
It's a scraping, fluttering sound, which is just a great texture to make it. It somehow just activates that whole chorus.
And yeah, kind of getting ahead, I feel like taking these unusual off notes is like the band's one of their greatest strengths, and kind of making that stuff hooky. That's a few records from now.
There's still plenty on here where the 60s just kind of rose me the wrong way, where they haven't fully shed it yet. Like You're Safe in Your Sleep from this girl is one where it's like, you know, it's not nearly as egregious as like the early stuff. It's not like we're just going to make a 60s song. It just has a lot of it in it, or you could feel that they're still kind of hanging on to it. But where I think they do it very nicely is in Please Lose Yourself in Me, where now they're taking all those 60s influences and they are shaping it into their own style. You could hear it. It's very obviously inspired by 60s, but it feels like its own thing. It's dreamy, it's spacious, it has these busy drums, and of course the shiny ass guitars. It's starting to blossom a little bit.
That track is a great balance of dark music and 60s pop. So yeah, I would agree with that. And like, I don't know if it's like an accordion or something, or what that is, but it's surprisingly cool. Whatever it is,
it's got to be guitar doing some crazy ass shit. It's got to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's it, although I tend to think it is, but there's definitely some stuff coming up where I had to be like, is that a guitar? Like Google search.
It can also
MPV
just
track.
be samples.
Is that
Yeah.
a guitar?
Yeah.
You're more thorough than me, where I'm like, if my ears don't pick up what it is, I'm going to do my best, and the listeners are going to have to endure.
That's a bassoon. I'm pretty sure it's a bassoon.
Not enough bassoons in bands we cover.
Underrated
For real.
instrument. But yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, it's a solid couple records. But the fact that it's not as available. Also, I learned that most of these records that are available streaming weren't available until like 2021. So they're a little late to the party, but God damn it, put this one on there. Find a way. Maybe not this version, because I believe this version was done without their consent, but the singles, I don't know, man. Find a way. Hopefully. I
mean, YouTube's not, the dark web. It's on YouTube.
It is on YouTube. It's just slightly inconvenient for those of us who like to put our screens to sleep when we listen to music.
There's programs where you can rip from YouTube to MP3 or FLAC or whatever your preferred choice is.
All the good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. So this piece says, in early 1988, My Bloody Valentine decided that they were, as their de facto leader, Kevin Shields puts it today, finished. So this was actually the end of My Bloody Valentine. They were fucking done after this. You know those things that we love from the band? That shouldn't even have existed. They should have been done after these records, which is pretty nuts. It goes on to say, you can see how they might have come to that conclusion. They had started life in the early 80s as a Dublin post-punk band, relocated to Berlin at the suggestion of the Virgin Prunes Gavin Friday. I thought it was the Netherlands. I'm getting conflicting things here.
Maybe they did both, and there was a move we didn't.
Yeah, maybe so. Because I know Debbie Gooch, I think she was dating someone in Berlin, so maybe that's they met her there. I don't know. I don't know the deal. There's a lot of lore here. We're not fucking historians. Continuing and become a gothy proposition inspired by the Birthday Party and the Cramps, then moved to London and transformed into what Shields calls a conceptual band. Their childlike record sleeves concealing songs about necrophilia and incest. So to touch on that, which I think is a good segue, their lyrics are still unpublished.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I only looked up the lyrics for one song, which I'll get to when I get to.
There's a chance those are wrong, because this is it's been documented like a good number, more times than I was expecting, honestly, that Kevin particularly, has like problems with like people trying to figure out the lyrics and then getting them wrong, and he feels like upset that they're wrong, so he wants to correct them, but he also doesn't want to tell the lyrics. I believe I saw this on the wiki in 2022. They called out, or he called out Spotify for putting quote unquote fake lyrics that were all incorrect, and it was like it deeply offended him because they just inferred or they interpreted the lyrics, and people just kind of like piece it together what they think it is, and he's like, that's not right at all. If it's wrong, then publish it for fuck's sake. Like, and I thought like, no way. So I just clicked on the fucking little lyrics tab on Apple. I mean, it's a relatively up to date page. It's a very, and it says lyrics unavailable, which is like, oh, it's all intentional. There's no fucking lyrics. Crazy.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Tim Robinson skit with the hot dog guy. We're all just trying to figure out who did this. It's like you could fix this.
You could fix this easily.
That's your job at Apple or Spotify. Is like, hey, listen real close and like decipher these lyrics.
Good
on Loveless,
fucking
right?
luck. Jesus.
I do wonder about that because sometimes I'm like, that was quick that they got the lyrics, or maybe they're just going off published stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a crapshoot. It sounds like, but during this time period, this is kind of where he starts to find himself musically, and his guitar starts to do things that maybe they were always meant to do. He says, or this piece says, Shield says he always had a vague idea for something else, music that sounded like, quote unquote, the most beautiful songs with the most extremeness of physicality and sound. He was partly inspired by hearing the live album The Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl as a kid in the 70s. He was fascinated by the way the band's performance was almost drowned out by the sound of screaming fans, and partly by a gig he had seen in Berlin, where Einstürzende Neubauten had covered Lee Hazelwood and Nancy Sinatra's Sand, while, quote unquote, blowing things up, getting singed, all sorts of things that were kind of a bit scary.
All roads this lead to Neubauten, don't they?
They do. All roads lead to Neubauten. Oh, we're going to cover Neubauten.
Didn't expect them to come up on this one, but hell yeah.
Yeah, never.
He's really speaking he's speaking all three of our languages.
I feel
right
like
now,
the universe is really trying to get me to listen to the band. Side story, I sent it to Mike. I was on the hellscape that is dating apps, and I sent this one girl's profile to Mike, and this showing off her cleavage, and she's wearing a Neubauten mask, and I'm like, wow, what a woman.
It's the goth girl meme come to life. Yeah.
It's insane that this band just keeps popping up. We hear you, universe. We got it. Yeah. I loud and clear.
Yeah.
Wait, Michael, this isn't like one of your bands?
Nope. I've heard one album, two albums now, considering counting their most recent one. So it's just been like an itching curiosity, and now it's become almost morbid. But now it says, what does it say? Continuing, it says, and so my Bloody Valentine, who had eventually solidified with the drummer Colm Kyo Soig. Jesus Christ, it sounds like I'm speaking Korean. I don't know what the bassist Debbie Googe and the singer guitarist Belinda Butcher embarked on what was supposed to be their final tour, with the intention of playing, quote unquote, really fast and aggressively, like a band killing their own songs, tearing it all to pieces, really. They turned everything up as loud as it would go. One startled audience member compared the experience to standing in a wind tunnel. Equally startled was Alan McGee, the boss of Creation Records. He had previously considered them pretty much a joke group, he later recalled, but found himself mouthing the words, "for fuck's sake," to a friend as they played. Afterward, he offered them a record deal. Holy shit.
With the age of this like music readily available to us, I wonder if there's still like crazy record exec stories where they have to like go out to gigs like this and endure these types of things these days. Probably very minimally.
It feels like a bygone era.
It does.
But it could be the case. But I would want that trajectory for my band to be like joke band in one moment and then like holy fuck the next moment. You know
what a
that's
life.
what you want.
Yeah. And this is where it all changed. It says Shields borrowed a friend's Fender Jazzmaster guitar and discovered that if he applied a digital delay effect while holding the tremolo arm, It created a uniquely woozy, disorienting sound that became his trademark. And then that leads us directly into the next EP. So are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
So ready.
This is the good stuff now.
This is where things start to.
This is what we're here for.
This is the jump. This is the shift. This is the one where I'd say if you weren't paying attention to what the whole band was, and this you heard it from the very beginning, very first time, this would be very shocking. So this is 1988's "You Made Me Realize." Already love it.
I instantly love this song. But also that like 60s pop is it's still there in the background.
But it's just an influence now.
Yes.
Now it's this whole new thing. Love, oh fuck yes, dude. And it goes into that dissonant ass. Oh.
Do you think they like discovered SST or something here? Like,
sounds like it.
Yeah.
So that's very clearly not the Cramps.
No, also I rarely pick EPs. This is my personal favorite. I think this is like one of the best EPs ever.
Delighted to hear that. Delighted.
Perfect EP, literally.
It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I heard this and my soul leapt. I felt just everything was bright. I knew I was in for a good time after this.
I had only heard stuff off Loveless, so I didn't know they had these other layers to them, like the title track that you played. And it just like the overall package in a short amount of time, it feels like diverse and crisp, and they're doing like new things. And I think even in 2025 sound like fresh to my ears.
The bass sound on here is amazing. They you could hear slow? A bass now for once.
On slow?
Yes, on slow. Absolutely on slow.
Sludgy.
Hell yeah.
Beautiful, man. It's unrecognizable in the best possible way.
Yeah, when it lines up with like the drums and it's like it sounds really heavy. It's crazy.
Oh,
very heavy.
Like they just gained an edge on this one, and then they're just like, oh yeah, we're actually punks.
Yep.
I think even something like Thorn, sorry. Like I could hear how that could have been a song on Ecstasy and Wine. But here, it's just, like Mike said, it's an influence now, and it's just so much more polished and better.
Everything feels so much more like it woke up. It feels like the band woke up.
That's a great way to describe it.
It doesn't just feel like Lightyear is more evolved than the other ones. It feels like they were... I'm trying to think of like a million analogies at once, but just like they were just... something just clicked spontaneously, and all of a sudden you made me realize they realized who they were like in an instant, and all of a sudden, okay, now we found our groove, let's continue on this little this groove, because everything here is, man, it has all the elements, like you say, it has the elements of the things that we heard on Ecstasy and Wine, but now they feel way more aggressive. They feel a lot more dynamic. The guitar stuff is way crazier. Like yeah, it's like they're still a little bit ambient, but they're doing. It sounds like on Thorn, it sounds like a fucking machine grinding away but grinding away odd melodies. It's not just a noisy texture. It's a noisy texture that makes you feel something. It's very unusual,
and it's under like a pretty kind of continuation of like a jangly track, but it's just like a better written one, I think.
Totally.
But yeah, that screechy guitar lead is crazy in that track. And then also the descending guitar noise at the end of You Made Me Realize also fucking rules super hard.
Oh, yeah.
Just like, there's a lot of like Joey Santiago style, like just like strumming the shit out of your guitar super fast, like kind of stuff happening. And the Jazzmaster thing is interesting too, because so you're saying this is where they picked up Jazzmasters?
Yes. Yeah. This is where it happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I read that like, most people know about the tremolo thing, right? But jazz masters, I guess, and I didn't know this. The way where it's located, the tremolo bar is like it's located close to the string so that you can actually pull that off, because you can't. I guess you can't do that on all guitar bodies.
Yeah, it changes from body to body for sure. So it's not as wild and crazy. The guitar stuff, the tremolo stuff, is not going to be as nutty as it's going to be in a couple records, but because it still has this punky edge to it. It's still, and it's like it's punk, but with beauty and griminess and sludginess. It's really fucking fantastic. And then you get stuff. So Drive It All Over Me. I wasn't into it at first. Won me over afterward. Because it has like a very Jane Says feel to it. And I like the song Jane Says. I know Alex hates it.
Don't you dare say it.
I also hate that song. but I love this one. This was I have in my notes, this might be the best pop song they ever wrote. I feel like this should have been a hit. It's been stuck in my head for at least a week.
I agree with you completely. This is like their best version of pop rock, but still being unique to them. I could hear like pepperings of the Smiths and the Cure, but I guess those are more their peers, right? So yeah, I agree with you. That's just one of their better pop songs. I guess I'm using the term loosely, but
it is quite nice. And then Cigarette in Your Bed is really nice. I mean, it kind of has that Tom centric drum beat, and there's like heavy moments mixed in that feel nice. The final minute speeds up, which is, I mean, it's a total left turn. And it's all within, how long is the CP? 17 minutes. It's like a really succinct, wonderful little statement.
Jamini Kano. It's this, it's efficient as fuck. Everything is great. And yeah, I was surprised, like when this was all said and done, I came back to this one the most, hence giving it personal favorite.
Don't blame you. Don't blame you at all. I love this EP. Yeah. This is like the beginning of like, because I have mixed feelings about the whole discography, I guess, but this is like this little chunk. It's like, oh, this is like a little special nugget because they keep growing, they keep changing. And so we only get this version like very briefly. It's a very cool little moment.
Yeah, I bought the EP collection on Discogs on CD right after I finished hearing this.
Nice.
I was like, I don't even care if the rest of the EPs are
just off the strength of that
are whack. Like that, I want to own this.
Yeah.
Nice. Hell yeah. So Alex's personal favorite, and yeah, this will take no time. He should hear it. And fuck it, the next one as well, because we're gonna be this. Now we're on to the next EP from also 19. We're gonna get 3 records in 1988. By the way, this is the second. This came out October 1988. This is Feed Me With Your Kiss.
You know, maybe I wasn't being so over the top saying they grow in real time. This is
very fast in the beginning. This rules.
This is crazy. This is like grunge or like Sonic Youth.
This is noise rock. Yeah.
Noise rock, grunge for sure. I think the vocals sound hilariously weak on the verses on this song. Like weird weak.
It reminds me of like almost, and I know they weren't listening to them or they came after, but like Bleach Show 3, how they would do like, was that Japanese girl punk band we did, Mike?
Oh, Bleach, yeah.
Or just Bleach. Yeah, how they'd have these heavy things and then you have like the gentle, like soft female vocals.
Right. But this is one of the dirtiest songs, and it feels great. God damn.
Yeah, it's like dreamy punk.
Yeah. And what a killer main riff. Oh, I love it. Good stuff.
So, man, taking a page out of Alex's book, personal favorite. I fucking love this. This, man, I love this EP. So the one of the first things I brought up about the last one was, oh, cool, they got dirty bass now. This is the dirty bass EP that they will never, ever, ever come back to. They basically abandoned bass after this EP, which blows my fucking mind because it sounds so good here.
I agree. I think it does pop its head here and there, but yeah, the bass is definitely the star of the show here.
Yeah, there's an alternative universe where they just like after this EP, they just become a noise rock band. You know what I mean?
They moved to Seattle.
Yeah.
I
Start doing heroin.
Oh, that would have worked out for everyone. But
although I will say, even as they sound like they do heroin. I like that one
for sure.
I don't mean to accuse people who do.
That is true.
It sounds
You're right. They
like
do heroin. They're staring at their shoes. They're fucking on heroin. So I think probably my favorite bass tone in the entire discography is on I Believe. Heavy as hell. It's one of the few like legitimately heavy My Bloody Valentine songs.
I have that one sounds kind of Stooges-ish.
Yes.
In a way. Yeah.
That one I can hear some of like the Beatles melodies, but they've taken and warped it into their own world now.
So
which like I don't know if I'd be comparing them to the Beatles as much if we hadn't, done our homework and listened to this stuff that's, non-canon. Even on Emptiness inside, like that bass line, like feels like a Beatles bass line that they've made extra filthy.
So I was talking about we were both talking about on Ecstasy and Wine, how Please Lose Yourself in Me was like taking the 60s influences, making it their own thing. I feel like the ultimate fully evolved form of that is I Believe, where it's like you hear the 60s influence, but now it is such a minor thing compared to this beautiful giant thing that they've created. That's completely unique, completely distinct. And yeah, it makes it only adds to the heaviness of the song, just this little 60s element. Emptiness Inside, the guitar, the choices are getting crazier and crazier, and they're getting more and more interesting, and they're getting a little bit more bold. They're getting a little bit, they're still a little bit ambient here, a little bit more on the periphery, but they're getting louder. They're getting more, he's getting more confident with it.
Do you think Kevin's doing anything different with the guitars on this one? Like, is he activating more of the guitar that doesn't sound like guitar here? It
just feels more of it. I don't know if he's doing anything differently exactly than the previous EP. It just feels like more. Everything feels like more here.
Yeah.
I want to get to the elephant in the room now that we've established that this is Mike's personal favorite, which is their most Velvet Underground influenced song.
I Need No Trust.
I Need No Trust.
So here's what I wrote about that. It rules as soon as it starts. It's immediately amazing.
We did it, guys. We got Mike to admit he likes the Velvet Underground.
I like some songs. I hate them as a whole. I hate their essence, more than anything. But boy, does it fucking rule, man. I love that song.
Mike likes Lulu. He likes I Need No Trust. Like, we're going to get him. It might take like a decade.
I do like Lou Reed. I do like
I was just watching part 3 like a couple of days ago, and when I got to the Lulu part, I was like, God damn.
That's the
personal fave.
Yeah.
Love it.
Good.
That's the like meat and potatoes of part 3.
Yeah. It's like an hour.
I don't know if I've seen you guys laugh harder than when that shit came out.
I mean,
it's so good.
It's like Lulu and Maskell. Like that's
Lulu and Maskell. Yeah.
That's like the Kings right there.
Absolute greatest. I would say for I Need No Trust, texturally, that shit is unmatched, man. Like some of this guitar stuff, obviously it's very influential and it's well regarded, but it's really spectacular. Like the stuff that it doesn't just sound, because we've heard a lot of people experiment with pedals upon pedals upon pedals, but to do it in a way that feels like just that actually opens up the song, that brings something out of the song. Because now we think of like, oh, that sounds shoegazy. We think of a certain thing. We think of a distorted, dreamy kind of wall of sound, but there's more to it than that. There's certain little ticks that he's able to pull off, and I think Need No Trust is a good example of those little intricacies.
Yeah, I forgot about the term shoegaze until a certain point in this discography, because they almost transcend it. Like like they're such a big part of the sound where it's like the origin no longer sounds like what it became. So
It makes me think of a lot of bands that I love, but I'm just not caring much for the things that they inspired. For some reason, the first thing that comes to mind is Drive Like Jehu, where I mean, you listen to them and then you know how many things that they inspired, but they still feel like this special, unique, isolated little island of a thing. That's exactly what this is.
when I went to this like little mini Deftones music festival in San Diego, I got irrationally upset when some woman in front of me, she only came for the Deftones, which, whatever, fine. But she had a hat on that said, "Make emo music cool again." And I was like, lady, Sunny Day Real Estate played earlier. Where the fuck were you? Like, you don't care about emo. Like, you had the grandfathers of emo playing at this like very festival and you weren't here. Anyways, that's my little pet peeve about.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Check out that episode.
Yeah, I also agree. Yeah, the term shoegaze, I mean, like, I don't love a lot of like the classic shoegaze stuff. Like, I think a lot of it's cool, but I definitely like a lot of shit that shoegaze like influenced. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's you can feel it in, like heavy metal. You can feel in like, the Boris discography. It just had this like very wide and broad sort of like application that I think is awesome.
Yeah, I think Boris for sure, especially with like that wall of sound and the soft female vocals, or even Deftones. It's maybe not like apparent at first, but it is there.
Definitely. But yeah, another stepping stone sort of record and my personal favorite. But now on to the
First
took us
proper
almost 2
album.
Yeah, it took us an hour and 20 minutes to get to their first actual album. Jesus Christ, man. I imagine you both are ready.
I'm ready, yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah. So this, finally, what month did this come out? Might as well give the fucking month while I'm at it. This came out in November of 1988. This Isn't Anything.
There's that, like, is that a drum machine?
It might as well be.
And yeah, this is so weird and unique.
Fucking nuts. Oh,
It's a weird choice.
it's
It's so
insane.
weird.
It's
so
insane. Oh, and now I'm in love. Oh, feel my heart blossoming. So strange though. It's ugly.
Like, that has to be a sample thing on the keyboards, right?
The little whooping.
The glidey sounding thing.
Yeah, I thought it was backup vocals from Belinda, but it could be.
I don't know. It's
It's all
No,
a fucking
it's-
mystery. That's what's
yeah,
that's
it's
what's great
almost
about it.
like the string thing.
I think it's his guitar. I don't know if
Holy
it's a sample or if he's
fuck.
playing it.
If that's guitar, holy
It's definitely
fuck.
guitar.
Fuck.
It is, yeah. It's a very groovy track, dude.
Really groovy, strangely groovy.
I remember this quite a bit growing up. What a wild departure. Even because we just got a bunch of departures. I mean,
Yeah.
this is yet another departure.
And especially opening it with perhaps the weirdest song on the album, I think.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
This is my personal fave, by the way.
Oh, nice.
Best.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, and this is where
Ooh.
I deviate from the world. And this is the thing. I don't care about what the world thinks. All I went by was like, I listened to it and I thought, I remember this from when I was younger. I remember hearing it a lot. This is a good album. But hearing it now, I thought like, oh wait, I'm feeling a lot of things. It's not just nostalgia. Like these melodies, these specific types of just melancholy melodies, they're pulling things out of me that like, it's like yanking emotion out of me. This is like extremely well written stuff, coupled with the grunginess, the rawness, also coupled or tripled, whatever, with some of the wildest guitar choices. Like, I mean, that song is a perfect example. You're opening your album with this weird, grindy, sliding sound over and over again, and it somehow feels beautiful. So I get to the whole thing, and I thought, well, obviously, I didn't know that people liked one album more. I didn't know that it was like it was the one album like overshadowing. I didn't know it was that much. I knew people preferred one album. I swear to God, I heard it once. I thought it was this. Like, oh, well, obviously it's this one. It's so fucking good. How is it not this one?
That's so appropriate for your upbringing.
Yeah, the world's gonna be pissed, Mike.
I don't care. Fucking stab me then. I'm gonna do it. We'll listen to this album, and I'll be very happy to die.
This album rocks.
So this is the one song I looked up because I saw when it came on, the song was called Cupid Come, and in my head I did the Beavis and Butthead thing. I'm like, that's the worst kind of cum.
The worst? I want the worst.
But then
it's not great.
But then
there's a lot of bad cum out there.
There's a lot about it. Yeah, there's cum that'll give you diseases. But then something about the lyrics, I was like, hold on, they might actually be singing about that. And then he's probably fucking with people, but through like the My Bloody Twitter on May 15th, 2021, tweeted out, I'm pretty sure the lyrics were inspired by a story about Roland Howard and cum in a coffee cup. All the indie girls worshipped him, including us lot. So I was like, my Beavis and Butthead behavior paid off, unless he's just fucking with people. But
so Roland S. Howard is Cupid,
and came in a coffee cup or something. That like I read the tweet, like I wrote the tweet down verbatim. So yeah, now I like the song more. There it is. You just did it for me, Alex. So
it definitely connects to what I similarly read about My Bloody Valentine, is that a lot of these lyrics are very horny. And like a couple of the album covers are kind of like indicate
very horny
too.
Super horny album cover. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, yeah, I didn't mean to keep bringing up the Deftones, but yeah, like Deftones and Health are pretty fucking horny, so it makes sense that, you know, the masters of horny, sad, heavy shit would also be that. This
album, despite its overwhelming horniness, is so goddamn beautiful. So I hadn't heard Lose My Breath in like 17, 18 years or something. As soon as I heard it, I was like, oh my God. Like I went full PTSD war veteran, like everything just like my eyes glossed over. It's so incredibly good. It's so incredibly good. There's something just devastating about that song to me. And the reason why I end up thinking this album is so fucking good is the fact that it keeps jumping between this stuff. It gives you Lose My Breath, which is painful and beautiful. And then it gives you When You Wake You're Still in a Dream. It gives you this nasty, dirty garage rock stuff, but it's still an interesting way it's pulled off. It's still very unique. He's still doing crazy guitar stuff, but it gives you moments where you can just kind of wake up a little bit and then fall back to sleep and then wake up. It's a beautiful little journey.
I was gonna kind of go back to the first track. It reminds me of the first track on OK Computer, and it started making me think maybe Radiohead like cribbed a little bit of it, in the sense that they don't really sound too much alike, but there's like those bass and drum sort of like groovy breaks, and like that track Airbag does that a lot, and it's also sort of like the most unconventional song on that album too.
Oh, totally.
So I don't know if there's actually a similarity though. Yeah, I also feel like you can hear what this influenced pretty well. Like Smashing Pumpkins like exist because of this record. I feel like
you said the thing about Radiohead that made me think immediately, because I wouldn't be surprised at all. For one, it does have that kind of disjointed rhythm, especially the bass kind of thing to it. But also, I think, funny enough, track 2 of OK Computer, Paranoid Android, I think it was Tom York or one of the members said that Paranoid Android was Radiohead just ripping off the song Los Angeles by Frank Black.
Interesting.
Interesting.
So
Alex?
yeah, I don't think it's that far-fetched. It's so funny you brought back on Lose My Breath that you had these like flashbacks, because this album's new to me, but specifically that song, and like kind of going off what Jamil said, like that song comes on and I can hear all the bands that it influenced. I can hear all these like bands from the early like indie bands that I listened to. It all like came rushing back to me. So that's interesting, like similar effects on that song, but you know, with different upbringings.
For sure. I also hear even stuff like Stereolab, which is also not surprising, but it's stuff that like, oh yeah, duh, this influenced fucking everything.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is 88. I can't believe how early this is. But there's just so many moments like following You're Still in a Dream with No More Sorry is exactly the type of pacing that I'm talking about, where as soon as you think you're kind of getting one thing and they're doing something a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more, not accessible, but something a little bit easier on the soul, you get something like No More Sorry, which is like, fuck, man, that is as dreamy as it gets. It's floaty as shit, spacey as hell. It's just wonderful.
It's surreal. It's almost like psychedelic noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. No More Sorry and All I Need, like that back to back, I think is where this goes from like rocking and like to being like very interesting. Because they both do. I think this is leading up to like the next album, especially. They kind of have like these like barely discernible sort of like rhythms happening, right? Like it's very buried. And they're not like super drum driven tracks. And then this is where like the noise kind of takes center stage. And then they're burying this very beautiful pop song underneath. If you were to just take an acoustic guitar and like strum out those chords, it's like the song stands on its own, but it's so much better like this.
You said, yeah, All I Need. Also another Radiohead song, All I Need.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So that's where the amount of floatiness and spaciness is just on a complete other level. Like it sounds like the song, like that song specifically, it's made of gas. There's something like really not physical about these songs. You're gonna get that more with the next album for sure. But like this is kind of where it starts to really, really happen. Where like they're slowly like like you see like a physical body, it's slowly crumbling away and like floating. Like that's what this album is. It's the process of something crumbling away and floating into space.
Yeah, that's a beautiful description of it, I think.
Thank you.
Going back to the like misheard lyrics, I'm pretty sure it was, you know, done intentionally. Sue is fine. Like when they sing it, it sounds like suicide. So
yeah, definitely. And yeah, judging by the way it's typed or written, I'm sure
like
that was intentional.
Yeah, one word. Yeah,
One word.
It's funny. I read it and it didn't like hit me until I heard it sung.
We also there's like weird flanger on the vocals too, or something as well.
Oh yeah, and they're super warped and very psychedelic, but the rhythm section is very snappy and tight.
And then speaking of like, I don't know what the fuck I'm listening to, several girls galore, like the vocals kind of ground the song, but I do like the way they're layered there because it makes me feel extra crazy while listening to it.
It's almost hard to find the riffs on there. It's not, I mean, and the bass is basically non-existent. I couldn't tell you how many times during this discography I had to Google if there was a bass player on the album. Like this I definitely did it for this album.
Yeah. Well, the opening track, I can hear the
yeah, for
bass.
that one. Yeah. But like a lot of these songs, it's like, did you just not put it? Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
I know that Kevin played bass on a lot of this stuff too. I don't know if he played on this album, but he did on the next one.
Right. What else we got? Insane main riff to You Never Should. It's like it's got this really beautiful emotional verse, but it's more tangible there. And then plus the chorus, the guitars on the chorus, they're stuttering and drony and scrapey, but pretty. It's just all the things I like in one.
I do like that the band has been established, but on Nothing Much to Lose, you do get parts where it's like the drummer can't play as fast as they want.
This was one of the moments where I was like, wait a minute, is he not a good drummer? is he not that great?
You don't need to be in this one, but it's weird. Yeah, because like the boom bap beat he's playing is solid, but like, man, once those fills come around,
he does his fills. He does the same types of fills on like all the albums. He does the
He's
same.
got one. He's got one.
He's got one. They come in at the exact same spots every time. Like, and then sometimes he does them too many times in a row, and it's like, okay, all right, just fucking nerd. But I think it works. And then for the closer, I can see it, but I can't feel it. Is just one of the best. It's easily one of my all-time favorites. Incredible main riff. That dirty bass. It's like one of the few songs on the whole album where there's like a dirty bass, aside from "Feed Me with Your Kiss." Wonderful.
I do think that is their best closer ever, though.
Yes, definitely.
I will agree too, and that's a very controversial opinion to my MVV fans.
I'm gonna get there about closing tracks when we get there, but
I think if you like the three of us did, if you loved You Made Me Realize and you love Feed Me with Your Kiss, like this is right there with it.
yeah,
And it's doing some different things too, but it does feel like they're in the same spirit and energy here. I think they just like got all these new tracks minus Feed Me with Your Kiss. And there's still like they still bring that like raw kind of sloppy dream punk thing into like at least 3 or 4 of these tracks too. Like there's some heavy sludgy stuff happening here as well.
All
absolutely,
that, definitely.
absolutely. If I wasn't 1 year old in '88, for sure making my year endless.
Yeah, easier in this.
This is some like 5 or 6 year olds, year endless.
Hell yeah.
It was way ahead of his time.
Probably Mike.
God, no. Listen, I was listening to Korn just like everyone else.
Listening to Pantera and Korn like all 5-year-olds do.
We were 2 years out from the Korn debut. Is that 1990?
No, the Korn debut was 94.
94.
Of course, I know that off the top of my head.
Remember in the early days when we just tried to figure out a way to bring Korn into the episode?
We didn't even need to try. It just happened organically. The way it did now.
I kind of stopped organically, but that was
Just listen to Chat Pile.
Oh yeah. They love Korn.
Hell yeah, they do.
They do.
Got good taste.
They do. I interviewed Reagan on my podcast.
That's fucking sick, man.
That's
We did an episode about 90s electronic music.
Yeah. We'll do it at the end, but your podcast is still up, and you've talked to some cool peeps on there. So
That's rad as hell.
I also I looked at, because I was curious. I was like, damn, this album rules. So I went on to like see what other albums were released this year. It's a fucking crazy year. You got Daydream Nation, Spirit of Eden, Bluebell Knoll, and Surfer Rosa all come out this year. So I'm like alt rock invented right here, basically.
That was some heavy hitters for sure.
Jeez, man. Yeah, some years,
there's something in the water or the stars align, whatever, sliding door phrase you want to use.
amazing. But contrary to the rest of the world, I do think this is their best. I'm amazed. There's someone out there that agrees with me. Other than I know Robert, my brother, agrees with me, and it was a complete. But the thing is, he's a wild man. I can't trust that every time, but I know he agrees with me. Maybe 1 or 2 other people agree with me. Whatever. I'm gonna stand here alone with all the guns pointing at me, and it's fine. It's okay. It's a great album. You like the album too, even if you don't think it's the best album. And Jamil's personal favorite. So he agrees in some way, kind of way.
It's a great album. Yeah.
I listened to this one more than Loveless, that's for sure.
Oh shit! There it is.
There it is. And there it is.
Yeah.
If everyone would just be a little bit more honest, maybe they fucking, I'm gonna calm down. I bet none of people are being honest though. If they just gave it a chance, God damn it, they listen to it more.
Because Jamil is the more cultured My Bloody Valentine fan going into this. So
I don't know. Not compared to like the mega nerds. This is one of those bands I think people get really fucking nerdy about. Right?
I'm not going to check the fucking comments. Thank you for letting me know
good.
that.
Yeah.
It's all good, baby. Hey, we come in peace,
You'll know
and love,
soon
like
enough.
Ringo Starr. But moving on. Now we got a couple more EPs, and now we're on to the next one. 2-year gap, because I think that This Isn't Anything did pretty well. The band didn't break up. That's pretty big already, because they planned on breaking up.
When you said that, that's so crazy to me. Like, imagine how many bands were like on the cusp of greatness and have broken up. Obviously, we don't hear about them, but
Yeah, it's super wild to think that like right before they became amazing is when crazy. And it's all attributed to him finding out a guitar technique and borrowing a certain kind of guitar. It's pretty wild. That's just how life works, I guess. Whatever. But now moving on. Next EP. This came out 1990. This is Glider.
This shit.
This is a little bit of a spoiler. It's the closer for the next album. Also, huge shift, huge jump.
This
Sounds very British.
I was
Very
gonna.
British.
I was gonna say I can imagine like the Sugar Cubes or like Bjork fucking with this.
Yeah,
But again, like the Sugar Cubes are like their peers because they didn't come after. Like they were around the same time. Also, the like violin thing. If you just had that, you could do like a little jig to that song.
it's a great hook. It's a great little hook.
It's the Irish influence.
It is, yeah. And yeah, the vocals now, they feel sexy as fuck.
Very dancey too.
Very dancey. That's some
you could-
real 90s dance fucking Enigma shit.
Yeah, someone could remix this shit, make it more socially
I'm
acceptable.
sure they have.
There's got to be so many. Right?
Great hook. So
Now we're in different territory now. That's no longer the garagey punkiness. Now we got fucking Enigma drums.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that song to be 7 minutes either.
Longest song yet. Their longest song yet. I mean, by a lot.
And then
Is it kind of weird that they're like spoiling songs like on a couple of these EPs going into like the main albums?
I think it's just weird because it is a band where I agree the EPs are very important to their sound. I'm glad we included them. If it was like a different, because I know other bands do that, I could see it, but they're also so strong at writing EPs. I feel like they don't have to recycle the songs on the albums.
Yeah, the I guess they were considered singles, and if the thing is, singles typically aren't like EP, 18 minutes. Like these are like 18 minutes. It seems a little long for that. Like I would actually prefer it without the spoiler songs or whatever, but it's still fine. And it does kind of like ease you in because without these EPs in the middle, each album to the next, I think is it's pretty big jump. This feels way more like, okay, I see what they're going to start doing. And I would say this EP is the first one where I'm like, I like it. It's a fine EP. I don't love it.
Agree.
Yeah, the opener is fine, and then the title track is more like an inverse of what we heard, where it's like noisy and off-putting, and I mean that as a compliment when talking about this band.
You're talking about Glider?
Yeah,
Okay.
Glider.
So there's two versions, right? There's a 3-minute one and then there's a 10-minute.
Yeah,
so-
and
so
we'll get to that on the comp.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, the comp. Some bonus unreleased stuff on the comp, but as for title tracks, that's probably the weirdest, and I would say the most like kind of nonsensical title track because it's really just a sound collage. It's 3 minutes of just these textures. It's cool, but it doesn't really feel like it's not like a developed song or anything.
It is
You know what?
interesting naming like the title track after this like interlude thing. Go ahead, sir.
To me, the riff sounds a lot like the one from Only Shallow, which we haven't heard yet, but we will hear. But it's a similar chord change.
Yeah, it's like Only Shallow's like a more well thought out sequel.
Yeah, I don't care much for a Glider personally, and I'm like the type of motherfucker is very susceptible to like 3-minute weird ambient track. Like that's not bad in my book personally.
I'm fine with this version. The 10-minute or whatever, I do not fucking like.
Let's just say that's a pile of shit. Let's
Yeah.
out the gate. Let's all agree there.
Yeah, because
Stinks.
if Jamil doesn't like the 3-minute version, he doesn't like the 10.
Spoiler: the 10-minute version is literally just the same thing, but for 10 minutes. It's exactly the
No,
same.
guys, the 10-minute version is where it really comes alive.
Clay, no, you fall into a hypnotic state. I'm also not super big on Don't Ask Why. I do like the acoustic guitar tone on it, but that's about it.
I jokingly thought that Lisa Loeb ripped off the riff for that for her mega hit "Kiss Me."
Oh,
I
good
don't
song.
know. It's a good song. It gets stuck in my head. It was everywhere when I was
Already
growing
stuck
up.
in my head.
Yeah.
I'm like exaggerating a little bit, but I heard it and it made me think of that Lisa Loeb song.
I think
It's the song you hear every time you walk into like a Walgreens or something.
Yeah. Every time I fall in love with a girl who doesn't know me, I just see her from
the at 3:05, around 3:05, that crazy guitar comes in though. I think that's actually like probably my favorite part of the whole song. I mean, it sounds fantastic. It's really dissonant and bendy. It's got a lot of character. I don't like the song, just the way it's written so much, but I still like the textures they pull off.
Yeah, it's definitely very grounded. I think especially after listening to Isn't Anything.
And we finally got drums again on Off Your Face. Yeah,
I'm a fan of that one.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
It reminds me of you can just totally hear Billy Corgan singing those melodies, and I know for some people that's a bad sentence to say. But I'm a mark for the first 5 Pupkins records.
Oh wow!
Nothing beyond that, but it's literally the shit I grew up on. So
I'm sure William would appreciate you bringing in a wrestling term to talk about his band.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the man, really.
No, I don't know who is.
He's kind of a chump.
Yeah, I don't know who is, but yeah, motherfucker could write some songs.
You guys should do that. I was just gonna slide this into so you guys should do the Discog.
I think they're still making.
But there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's so much. They're still making music, and they have so many bad albums. So
Yeah,
I only like
it'd be like the Metallica Part 1, 2, and 3 kind of thing.
I only like the good stuff out of nostalgia, honestly. I don't even think I would like it as much going back. I find Billy Corgan to be far more entertaining than his music, and that's mostly because like the interviews that I've heard about him over the years. I'd say very entertaining. But I'm kind of curious to go back to those albums. I bet I'd feel a lot of happy feelings.
As an older person, I appreciate Gish and Siamese Dream like way more than when I was younger. Something about those 2 albums hit differently.
Siamese Dream was like the one that I heard more than you can. I mean, more than most albums. I think when I was young, it was just always on, always.
Also, shout out to my friend Gary. His mom Lynn gave me Melancholy and The Infinite Sadness. Is so relieved as a young man that I didn't have to buy a double disc album. That was like, oh, thank God, lady, you saved
like $25.
Yeah, you saved me so much money right now.
Or
what I thought. Yeah, what I thought was a lot of money.
Being able to get a double disc was always like you better hold on to this one for a while. You better appreciate this one.
Hell
rare occurrence. But yeah, I'd say this EP, it's not too bad on its own, but I listen to it directly after the last 3. It's like, Jesus, that's a step down.
Agreed.
That's a fair assessment. It didn't like kill. It's not like a buzz kill, but it's not as strong.
Right. And moving on to the next one, we got at the beginning of 91.
I love making people wait 2 hours to hear about Loveless. It's so fucking funny.
Well, they got timestamps, but it does take a long time to get there.
Don't put the timestamp for Loveless.
It's the only one I won't put the timestamp for. So moving on to the next one. This is February 1991. This is, very aptly titled Tremolo.
There's a level of whimsy and magicalness to this song that they didn't have on other songs.
Oh yeah. Also, this
They did it again.
They did it again, yeah. Every single time. It's
this is technically a spoiler track for the next album. It does have a different outro.
It's different.
Yeah.
And even on the last album we did, what is it? Soon. It's a bit different too.
Is it? Oh wow, I didn't catch that.
It's not something I noticed. It's like nerds on Reddit being like, oh, it actually is slightly different.
Gotcha.
I will say, an opener compared to like on the next album, it does feel like it felt different to me.
Yeah, very different. This is like, whoa, this feels so different. It feels like it's barely happening, but it's like it's happening. It feels like you're dreaming it, kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. I listened to an interview with Kevin Shields, and he was talking about how like the best compliment he ever got paid about his music was a doctor who was familiar with his band was like, yeah, this just sounds like you're just waking up. Like that 5 seconds where you're disoriented and just waking up.
Leave it to a doctor to know exactly how to articulate art.
I don't even know if she was being complimentary or whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Kevin seemed to be into it.
So
I think this is a lovely track, though.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's obviously probably a huge disservice to it to like put just a snippet of it and we're talking, but like it's this type of thing where it is the driftiest and vaguest that they've been. It's pretty wild.
It is a good exercise in like placement of songs where it's more unsettling here and all these other things we described, but like coming up, it can also feel punishing when put aside things that are sonically assaulting you. So I'll just say that. Swallow is crazy because I feel like most bands use, instruments from Asia and we all know what they sound like. I don't even know for sure, but here I'm like, sounds more like shit I've heard in like Thai restaurants than the stereotypical, like very pretty, dreamy Asian instruments you hear on psychedelia.
Thai gaze.
Thai gaze.
Swallow, the Eastern elements on Swallow are fascinating because Thai is probably an interesting. Yeah, I don't know much about Thai music aside from the song "Cunts" from Butthole Surfers. That's like the only Thai song I've ever heard.
I don't even know if that's accurate. I have very limited knowledge outside.
But it seems like it though. It feels Eastern, but it feels Indian to me. But it doesn't. When you think Eastern, you could automatically go Asian, but this is not that. It's a little bit more exotic than that. But it's the song. It's still My Bloody Valentine writing.
It is,
but it just has those instruments on it, so it isn't. It's very unusual.
Is it the flute-like sound that you're?
I think it is. Yeah, like this shit would be. This shit would be playing in a Tony Jaa movie. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I read that was that's guitar constructed using guitar feedback.
Insane.
That effect.
Genius.
Yeah.
Genius.
Wild.
Yeah. And then the percussion is very just Eastern and Indian sounding. I don't know what you call them, the boingy water drums.
you know what's funny? I found out what those were called on Christmas Day, and I forgot.
There it is. I learned so many new words that I don't remember a single one. I mean, you learn them once, and then you got to learn them like 5 more times. We're not children anymore. We don't remember shit. And then we get a little bit more the classic MBV on Honey Power.
It's a little more normal, which is nice after these like dense songs. You almost need to cleanse your palate.
I think that one rocks pretty good. But overall, this EP, I've kind of felt like the previous one. It's a little I don't need it.
I'm gonna go ahead and agree with that. I like it more than the previous one, but I tend to this EP does something a little unique where every song has a lengthy outro that's completely separate from the main song. So like the opener to Here Knows When, the outro that they use on the album is very different from this one. This one, I mean, it's just really pretty. I mean, it feels like a whole new song. They all kind of do that. I actually like the outro section to Swallow more than the song itself. It has these little moments where you could tell that this one they try to make a little bit more of its own little experience than just like, oh, here's one more work, or here's a new song, and then other, where that's kind of what Glider felt like. Like, okay, this one's going to be on the album, and here's some more. It felt like kind of B-sides. This one feels like they try to make it like an actual record.
For me, my favorite like little outro track on here is Attached to Honey Power. I'm like, that could have just been its own thing, really. If Glider's a song, why not?
Yes, dude. Yes, it's beautiful. It's lovely and ethereal. It's a great outro. I think Moonsong could be worse, but it's not. I'm not. It kind of bores me. I'm kind of checking out at that point.
A little dreary.
Yeah.
I think I was
dull.
This kind of blown away that similar to Swallow, I'm like, now these motherfuckers are bringing in bongos over their noise. Like they're
back on their 60s shit.
Yeah, they're just rubbing it in our faces, really. Like, oh, we'll take anything and we'll turn it into a song.
Well, it is interesting, but I would say it's more interesting than it is like enjoyable, which they do that from time to time where I feel that way. But overall, this one, it just kind of, it did some things that I like, some things that I didn't like, but I would still put it above Glider if I had to. So this piece says right here, the Glider EP in 1990 stirred dance music into the mix. By the time of the 1991 EP, Tremolo, My Bloody Valentine were attracting laudatory acclaim. Brian Eno claimed it, quote, set a new standard for pop, and total bafflement. Stories of buyers returning Tremolo to the shop, convinced there was something wrong with the record, that it couldn't possibly be supposed to sound like that, or Legion. Because we'd had a good few years of not being particularly respected, it wasn't like we were delighted, says Shield of the band's sudden ascent. We were kind of cynical, like, yeah, okay. I realized that I was already in my own universe, but I couldn't explain it to anyone, and I wasn't going to try either. I realized it doesn't really matter what people are saying. We'll just see where it goes. And this is where it gets ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It says Shield has a habit of making playing at extreme volumes sound like the most reasonable thing in the world 1 minute. Bands are loud, he shrugs, but most gigs are laughably quiet. Something you're consuming, not being consumed by. Then admitting that My Bloody Valentine reached a point where they were playing at such volume that they were causing structural damage to venues. Chunks were falling out of the ceiling. It sounds like an exaggeration, but I'm serious. We were really concerned that eventually some roof was going to fall down, he says. It was a matter of time before a serious accident happened.
I could believe that because I watched this little like PBS documentary about they called it the Chinatown Wars in LA. There were two punk venues in Chinatown within walking distance. And one of those venues got fucked up. So it's just like, I could see that. It doesn't feel, that far-fetched. Some of these venues.
It's super.
I do hate a quiet gig, I must say.
Why even be there if it's going to be quiet? I do like the phrasing of something that you're consuming instead of being consumed by. Like, yes, I want to be overwhelmed by a live performance. But this right here, this next quote, maybe not this part. It says, at one gig, a butcher was literally chasing my sister with a cleaver. He wanted to chop the cable because it was shaking his shop so much when we were doing You Made Me Realize. The police turned up and arrested our tour manager during You Made Me Realize. They arrested him, put him in the car, questioned him, and let him go. And when he got back, we were still playing it. Countless situations.
There's a Belinda Butcher joke in there somewhere.
Yeah, Jesus, man. And this is about the lyrics. It says, then there was the mythology that developed around the band. In truth, they had always been faintly mysterious with their non-committal approach to interviews and their largely inaudible lyrics. Shield says 30 to 50% of the guesswork on online lyric sites is, quote unquote, completely wrong, sometimes in really key areas. Part of me really likes the folk song element of that, people changing things, having their own version of reality. And part of me thinks I should go through them like a teacher correcting them.
Correct us.
Fuck it. I kind of like the mystery. It's been so long since
it is kind of fun.
We don't get really in the world of the internet, we don't really get mysteries anymore. We get immediate answers, and it's getting fucking boring. Honestly, we got Mescal, which was a beautiful mystery, and it led to one of the most fun episodes that we did. The fact that there's still not lyrics online or the accurate lyrics of this band, it makes me appreciate it more. Although I maybe it's because I don't love reading lyrics that much. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that's fair. Like, I think like the last one was like, oh, who's a member in Ghost? Is that Dave Grohl on the drums? And
That's right. Yeah, it's or even the Daft Punk if you want to go that route, or Ghoul if you want to go the complete opposite of Famous route, where like, yeah, you don't really care who they are. You care that you don't know who they are. If tell me the fucking guy's name is Pierre. I don't give a fuck. Like, okay, cool, it's Pierre doing it. But if he's got a mask on, that's pretty cool. Who could it be?
Man, Slipknot was like, now it's crazy. Now, like, we all know what those dudes look, but like, I remember people being pretty like in the heavy music scene.
Or like Sun, like I remember hearing an interview with them where they talk about like one of the primary reasons they like cloak up when they play is, and they'll have like more than just the two guys playing, is that they'll bring like super well-known people like Justin Broderick from Godflesh and shit, like out to play with them, and no one will ever know, right, that he like played with them on that gig or whatever. And I think, and then you find out about it like 2 years later.
That's so cool.
100
It's really cool.
100% Kim from Soundgarden has done that.
That's sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love him.
There's like no way he hasn't.
Love that
Anyways.
shit. I love that shit. Or like the Gimp during the Faith No More reunion. Who was the Gimp that time? I mean, that's fun little stuff there. But now, finally, after literally 2 hours, we are on to the album. Okay, we're all ready. We're still good. Everybody still got some energy left in them.
Yep.
Hell yeah! So this is 1991's Loveless.
Man,
This is a very, very cool ass song. Goddamn.
nothing sounds like this.
They are so much louder on this one.
I was gonna say, if people were returning Tremolo, it's
breathier, more angelic than ever.
The tone's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how vague her enunciating is. It just sounds like she's a robot, mumbling robot words.
well, I was reading too that music critics and fans call the vocals androgynous. How like the female vocals and the male vocals do kind of get lost in each other.
Yeah.
I read that it's not always. It seems like Belinda's singing on like what's coded as like the female vocals, but Kevin actually pitched his vocals high on sometimes to approximate a more like high feminine kind of voice as well. So that's kind of a cool mystery too, where you don't like know exactly who it is.
Did not know that. That's very interesting.
As someone who's like vaguely familiar with the band Placebo, that's believable to me.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So that is I'd say a
Pretty killer intro. Or opener.
Pretty killer. And who am I? I'm just gonna give it best.
You don't
That's
even
best
believe
for
that.
me too.
Alex doesn't even believe that. I feel it in his soul. I feel he doesn't believe that. He's
No.
saying it. He's just saying it.
I'm so like skate video pilled, and I've heard so many. I don't know why they were using these songs in skate videos. So like
That is interesting. Yeah.
Ah, they're using Loveless songs. I thought I was gonna go for like the more punkier stuff.
Yeah.
no, like. So yeah, it's like I have these puzzle pieces and I've never like listened to this like front to back. So it was like this big like, oh, okay moment for me. And also like, yeah, I don't know anything that sounds like this album.
It is insanely unique. I mean, it does have its own kind of it's like everything I'm gonna say is gonna sound so fucking cheesy. It's like it's an experience of its own, man. It doesn't take shapes musically, man. But that's kind of what it is. It's just weird floaty gas. Like I said before, it's this cloud of sound.
It's so much more violent as well. It's like fucking napalm gas.
Really?
Yeah, but it's also
You're crazy.
that opener is fucking like punches you in the face
For sure.
and also
it's nice.
it just makes me want to just like turn it up more and more and like crank it really really loud.
Just
I do think there's a few keys to enjoying this album on like a max level, and one of them is you got to crank it up really high, and then you kind of also have to accept that there's not really any riffs anymore.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's right. There's really not. They're there. They're in there somewhere, but it's find them. I mean, they're very vague.
Yeah, so like one of the songs that I was familiar with was When You Sleep. Some maniac decided to use that for skate section, and God have mercy on whoever had to edit that. Especially like listening to the album, I was like, who the fuck was someone's like, oh yeah, I want my section to be
When you sleep. Yeah, for my skate video.
I was trying to figure out who it was. I couldn't figure it out. Maybe someone
Chad
knows.
Muska. I don't know.
Chad Muska's fucking. What? He's nice. He's a nice man, but he's not fucking with this shit. Anyways,
Wonderful song. I do like this song. That one felt a little bit more, maybe something off of Isn't Anything. It's a little bit more on the classic side of things compared to a lot of stuff on here, but it's still more psychedelic, more atmospheric. Beautiful song.
I Only Said is one of the bangers on here. And it's very amusing to me being a rock band now where like the guitars probably aren't like memorable it's not even like the third most memorable thing in like a hooky way. They're using all these like layers and textures, and then it's like the guitars are more like an effect now.
Yeah, you could barely tell what's happening. It's so compounded.
Yeah, on that track in particular, I mean, they cranked the bass down so much on that one in a very like obvious way. It's just got like that soft guitar playing like the sort of melodic part, but there's no low end or bass punch at all, which is kind of a weird choice to make, because then it just makes it sound like kind of like an ambient track. That's
ultimately what kind of kept me from falling in love with this album is two main things. One, because it's so floaty and dreamy, it ends up having a lot of ambience to it. So maybe I just didn't crank it loud enough. Maybe I should try cranking it louder. It's one possible solution.
Well, like one of my other keys to, I think, enjoying this album on a max level is you need to really have a high tolerance for like repetitive music, which I think you guys do.
For sure.
But like a lot of those, like this is the best. This is one of those albums where there's a lot of this is the best album of all time. Like there's a lot of those people out there.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Yeah.
Personally. But what I do appreciate about this is like it does stretch the boundaries of rock in a way that I think it's fair to say that it did that. For better or worse is like totally your call.
I'm amazed. This is so like critically beloved and accepted, because this is probably one of the most like off-putting albums you will find on like 100 greatest album list. Like it's the whole, like just its existence is bizarre and strange to me. And then it came with this, dare I say, commercial acceptance. Like
it is strange. It is very confusing. I was thinking the same thing. Like this is, by most accounts, not accessible. There's a lot of it's just like, I mean, people were returning the fucking Tremolo because they thought it didn't work right. I mean, how did this blow up?
I will say the prettiest, most accessible song and the other song that was in a skate video sometimes, and
also in Alex's favorite movie, Lost in Translation.
Oh, was it? See, I know it from Kids in America, not America, the skate brand America. And they used that for their end credits song. And I think that just fucked with me so much, where like when Soon comes on, and also having heard Soon, I'm like, No, the America guys got it. Like sometimes is the closer.
It's beautiful. It's definitely beautiful. Also, speaking of Lost in Translation, Kevin Shields also wrote a bunch of music for it. He just also wrote music for it, which is interesting.
I'm gonna rewatch that movie. I did like her Priscilla movie about Elvis's underaged wife. So
Coppola?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I may rewatch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jamil's thoughts on Sometimes.
On Sophia Coppola. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, maybe Kevin was trying to holler at Scarlett or something. Sometimes, yeah, that's an all-time track for me. That song's a fucking dream. I love that blanketing distortion. I love the kind of ambiguous emotion in the song. It's like sad, like it's like probably the number one, but then it's also like, I don't know, feels good too. I would love to know how many layers are on this song. Like I think I hear like 2 basses on the song, kind of doing slightly different things.
It is,
and I think this is the only thing on the album that's like a ballad, you know?
I would agree with that.
And
probably,
and it's maybe the most emotional thing on the album too, even though it's still ambiguous.
yeah.
totally. It's probably, I don't know if I could pick a favorite exactly, but it's definitely up there. It's one of my favorites on here. I think it's probably easily one of the most well-written things that they've done. It's in the layering of whatever distorted thing on top of that acoustic guitar just feels very chunky and very satisfying. But so this is like a very, obviously very atmospheric album, and it has like a lot of driftiness to it, and it's a lot that kind of bleeds from one thing to the next, and it does feel like a dream. The thing that took me out of the dream and placed me in a nightmare, I'm kidding, it did pull me out of the dream, is the constant use of that 90s dance enigma drum beat. Like they use it more on here than I was expecting and that I could tolerate. Like songs that I think are gorgeous songs have this tiny little, and it's buried, it's super buried, but it's there. That's the beat. And it's like, oh God damn it. It dates it for me. Immediately dates it for me.
I've recently made a playlist of like those sexy dance 90s new age songs. So I didn't even notice that, but you know, to me, that's a plus. That's a plus.
For some, it's going to be a plus. For some, it's not.
Put it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where I'm like, what happened to the drummer? Like he came in and like did sort of that break beat kind of like
Yeah.
loop, and then
Yeah.
like gave it to Kevin, and he's like, yo, you could take the next like few months off, man. Like
It's so confusing. Yeah, there's really no drums, and I get that it was obviously very intentional. Everything about this feels very intentional, but it's not only just like the lack of drums on full songs here. It's like when they're there, aside from fucking Soon or only shallow, they're buried to high hell.
It's a beautiful mess. Almost sublime, if you will.
Don't you dare use that word in my presence.
It's so funny how it is a word not associated with a band, but the band is so prevalent in California that it's my like, oh, it's a shitty band first. It doesn't mean like
it is a shitty band before a beautiful definition was what the word is supposed to be.
Anyways.
Did you guys do Sublime?
Yeah, early. It was like episode 30 something. Yeah,
I'm going back to that one.
It's old. Yeah. There's some stuff here that I think is so hard to define that I really love, like Touched, which is it's a transition track, but it's like channeling a bunch of different eras through a space filter. It's so unusual.
Yeah, the strings or guitar or whatever are great on that little interlude thing.
Yeah, I like What You Want a lot. I think that's a very gorgeous track, and I love that they the chorus of some of these songs is just like a noisy section that doesn't have any vocals. And I think they do this thing a lot where in place of singing a chorus, they just have a noisy guitar layering piece, and that is the de facto chorus. And I think they're subverting a lot of like song structure kind of stuff here, but I think they've also done it before. But like, I don't know. I just feels like Kevin just like takes over the whole show on this album. Like, I can't prove that, but that's just what it seems like. And also on the drum stuff, I do think this is where like you see that My Bloody Valentine becomes a big influence on like different kinds of electronic music here, right? Like with the thing that Brian Eno was talking about, with like the dreamy sort of style of like techno electronic, which I think I would probably prefer to like a lot of other techno music personally.
Yeah.
Same. That's why we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is exactly it. We're in lieu of vocals, this shimmering, shiny texture takes over. And it's just this for like what you want. It's kind of like a poster child song for shoegaze. It's like, that's what I kind of think of in my head when I think of shoegaze, is like that song or a song like that, where it's a simple, pretty easy to grasp rhythm with a very vague, shiny wall of beauty. I don't know, man. It's pretty. There's not really much else I can say about it. It's pretty.
Yeah, I think I've got all my thoughts out about Loveless for now.
Do you guys know any of like the lore around the making of this album?
Well, we have some notes here about that. That it was difficult, to say the least, to get and difficult and expensive, I believe. This was a whole shit show, I think.
Yep.
So at least this piece says the mythology really grew during the protracted sessions for their 1991 album Loveless, which, depending on whose version of events you believe, nearly bankrupted creation or did nothing of the sort, and grew to mammoth proportions when, in the wake of Loveless's success, My Bloody Valentine signed to a major label and then failed to release any music, bar a couple of covers, for the next 21 years. It was originally recorded on digital and remixed on analog, which for 88, that's very bizarre.
That sounds like a miss.
I believe it's one of the many things that caused the headache that was this album, with the making of this album.
They were apparently in 19 different recording studios for this.
Jesus, that's
and they just kept starting it and stopping it and starting it and stopping it, and it was like driving the record company crazy. It took 2 years to make, and I think $200K, like back then, $200,000 to record this thing.
So what I read was that the 200K or like 200 pounds was someone exaggerating it. And I think Kevin Shields said it was something like 160, but then they say that he was lowballing it. So around between 160 and like 240 is like where it was. It could have been 200. But as for cutting and mixing this was all, they call this a nightmare. They asked him about, literally refer to it as a nightmare. Shields says, I learned a lot. We had a lot of trial and error in the whole process of trying to cut it. Anything wasn't so hard, but Loveless was a nightmare. It wasn't supposed to take that long. It wasn't supposed to be that hard, but this thing broke us in a way. It used all our money up and put us in a very not good place when we should have been recording this album. I was constantly stopping, basically to go back into this whole thing, and it did lead to a kind of a promise that's over, that going into the rabbit hole kind of thing where I'll go until it's done. On Loveless, there are some things that I haven't spoken about that I'm still waiting for people to digest before I do. I'm quite enjoying people hear it with very open ears and an open mind, because some people know I have remixed some stuff, but no one knows what. So that's kind of cool. Making it was expensive and ridiculous. Afterward is where like the legend starts sprouting up, because they didn't make any they signed to a major label and they didn't make any music. Members left. Shields went into full-on hermit mode. They were comparing him to like Brian Wilson. That's like the main comparison I keep reading. Is that he just sort of went nuts. And this piece has a little bit more of an optimistic take on that. It says, calling from his home in Ireland, Shields does not sound much like the damaged latter-day Brian Wilson of popular myth. He is friendly and chatty, funny and engaged, and occasionally keen to puncture such myths. It says the truth about the years of inaction, he says, is a lot more prosaic than people think. Basically, I know when the switch is on or off. When the switch is on, everything's fine, everything's good. And when the switch is off, everything's pointless. I would go, okay, I'm not trying. I'll watch television. I'll read magazines. That's why Loveless became this seemingly long, drawn-out process, because I discovered pretty quickly that when circumstances around me turn the switch off, I just feel like it's a labor, or I feel too much emotional and psychological uncomfortableness around me to be doing music in a way that's pure, the way everyone should be doing music. So that's the reason that they didn't make any fucking music. His switch turned off and he's like, I got nothing.
Homeboy sounds depressed.
Yeah, there's an honesty in that too, though.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And probably a lack of ego as well.
I know exactly what he's talking about. I just don't have the luxury to.
I like it. I like that he didn't force himself to put out something that fucking stunk. And that's really the way it is. Because really, our ideas aren't really our own. Like we get them and then we can use them. But we can't just have amazing ideas all the time. If we did, the world would be fucking nonstop with amazing shit. Like, it's just not how it works. And the fact that he's like, it seemed like he did it more in a way of like, I don't feel like doing it. And it more so than a way of like nobility of like, no, I don't want to put out something that sucks. It was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Which there's like an honesty in that. I kind of appreciate that.
It's relatable.
Yeah, sure is. But that's the big album. It's both Alex and Jamil's best. It's everyone else in the world except for me. It's their best as well. So take that as you will. So before we move on to the final album, it's a long episode on that, I know. Touch a little bit upon the bonus unreleased stuff that's included on 2012's EPs 1988 to 1991. Because it's like a full 30 minutes worth of bonus stuff.
It is. It's it's not like must required listening, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. I'll say in terms of physical media, it's the best thing to own to get You Made Me Realize, and that I forget the name of it.
Oh, sure. Like the complete like the complete package is worth it, but like just in terms of like songs we can't get anywhere else.
And it excludes all the Cramp stuff, which is great.
Very good.
The only highlights I have are instrumental number 1. Sounds a lot like Sonic Youth, which is very cool. And then I don't know. Go ahead.
It's probably like the most straightforward alternative rock sounding song that they have.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I don't know if you guys remember this track. There's this track called Good For You, which is like a jangly pop song.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
But at some point it just stops abruptly, and then it launches into like the most insane, super heavy, almost like industrial sounding section that's like very pounding and brutal. And that part fucking rules so hard.
Favorite song from that whole section. Yeah. Absolutely. It's great.
What Mike just said. Yeah, it's
okay.
Like the best.
I wasn't the only one. Whoa.
It's the best vocal bonus track.
Yeah. I wasn't too big on the instrumentals. I definitely, like you guys did not like the Glider 10-minute version, of course. I don't mind Sugar. It has like it's not a double kick, but it's the speed of a double kick without being a double kick. And then, kind of Angel and How You Do It, the other ones, they're kind of more the same, but Good For You is the one where it's like, all right, that's pretty interesting. I like, that's a good ass one. Absolutely.
I do think How You Do It is like very anxiety inducing, again, in a positive way. And I do like the vocals on that one. So
it does get weird. Yeah. But now, after many, 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 many years, they sprung back up and threw out a fucking reunion album, which I guess they broke up, but they didn't break up. Like they broke up quietly, and then they just sort of slowly, it's like they dispersed in water, and then someone just scooped them back up together. It's very,
they went from a liquid into a steam, and then they came back.
Yes. Yeah. That's really what they really did. That they went through the whole, they are water. They're just water. But time to finally get to finally at the end. My God, long episode. My voice hurts. I'm sure you're tired, Jamil. Thank you for joining us, by the way. It's been a very fun time.
It's been a pleasure, guys.
This is 2013's MBV. In case you thought Loveless wasn't ethereal, dreamy, and formless enough,
I kind of wanted to say it sounds like they didn't skip a beat, but to my ears, this is way more chill.
It chill, probably more calm, less jagged, but just as
Dad. This is dad case.
It's dad. These are gay dads, right?
For gay dads, yeah.
this is gay dads, everybody.
Shout out to the gay dads.
This is really not the most in your face of openers, I would say. And it's a
No.
it's a hard sell if you're just gonna show a snippet of an album, and this is like,
I think they. Well, I can't speak on it because I wasn't doing it in real time. I think they had like that D'Angelo effect though, where people were just so thirsty for it, and this probably seems so surreal when it came out.
Totally. So it's hard to really, much like
Other songs, it's hard to kind of appreciate it from just a little excerpt like that, because that is a cool song. It is a very beautiful song, but it's just, you have to kind of be in the world for it, to appreciate it.
I agree. And because I'm not a coward, and I don't think this is a bad album, but because I'm not a coward and I'm sticking to my guns of what is canon, this is Worsley's favorite of the stuff that is canon. You guys are correct though, but I'm sticking with my guns.
It's understandable, yeah.
It
think it's
is
controversial.
Of the three.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, it is the Worsley's favorite.
I'm not super mad at that. I didn't enjoy this nearly as much. I still like it. There's stuff on it that I like a lot, but I found it to be like, some stuff I genuinely dislike, and other stuff I find to be so dreamy and floaty that if you're not in the exact fucking right mood for it, you're probably not going to be into it.
It's the only album I got bored with. So
That'll do it. No, that's the curse for Alex.
yeah, and really only on one song. Like
Which one?
Who Sees You?
Really, that one? What about that one? Why that one?
I just like, I don't know. It wasn't doing it for me. Very, very much like you said. I thought I was in the like mind space for it, but I wasn't. But then I feel like the album kind of like bounces back after that. Like they almost turn into more of a trip hop band by the time this album is over.
It's funny. I don't necessarily feel the opposite, but I like Who Sees You. I think I like the warped garaginess of it. It's not super pleasant on the surface, but I kind of like the way it's executed. And I do think that song, along with many others here, kind of overstay their welcome. Jamil, thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I like that one. I'm a fan of it. I think that for me, if I look at this album as a whole, tracks, I think I actually really like this album. I think it's a much catchier, tamer My Bloody Valentine, but super atmospheric. It takes like the atmospheric stuff from Loveless that people, I guess, wouldn't consider like songs, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like extends them out into longer kind of tracks. But then there's exceptions, like New You is super bouncy and catchy. Maybe it's like kind of that trip hop thing that Alex is mentioning.
It is.
That's
yes.
something kind of new for them. I think that track's a banger. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate. And like, I don't think this is a bad album at all. Like, I'm sure if I had like gotten into them and then like this dropped, I'd be like obsessed with it. And then, yeah, like before that, If I Am, like the guitars are almost like these warped funk guitars in a way.
Yeah. For If I Am, I actually tend to like the production and performances more than the song itself. I like the way the drums are produced. I like the whatever the fuck textures everything else is. Everything else, all the instruments on here could be kind of categorized into categorized as what the fuck is that. That's pretty much how most of it is. It's so far off the deep end of I'm playing a guitar. It's so far past I'm playing a guitar.
Exactly.
Yes, it is.
It's so that aspect of it I think is wonderful, and it's just maybe not the most you're not going to be tapping your foot to it so much. You know, aside from some of the tangible songs like New You, which I didn't like at first, but it won me over a second listen.
Hell yeah.
But there's still some stuff on here that I quite like. I do. Was it In Another Way? That one is probably my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
It very, like, for me it picks up the pace. And yeah, I was just enjoying it way more by the time that came on.
I like how jammy it is, because they really don't. This is the only album where they kind of go, aside from a few tracks here and there, where they kind of lean into the length, and then some of the passages on there on Another Way are so unusually abrasive and interestingly written, and they just keep kind of hammering it away. And there's something about the repetition of it that really ends up just like feeling good by the end of it. I don't necessarily love a lot of things on here though. Like, Is This and Yes is the first thing to really bore me. And it's 5 minutes long for them.
I think that's like, it's very minimal, especially for My Bloody Valentine. But because it was more dark and electronic driven, and it's not like anything else they've done before. Not that it's like groundbreaking, but I don't know. It was just so different. I agree it's a little long in tooth, but it was like different enough where I was like, okay.
I thought that was an interesting track to just kind of like not necessarily super enjoyable, just like, wow, that's interesting that they're doing that now. For me, the weakest stuff on here is the way it closes, the last two tracks, Nothing Is and Wonder 2. I can't find any much enjoyment out of either of those tracks personally. And I think the rest of the album is pretty good, I will say. And I think this is pretty well received by fans.
Oh
too,
yeah,
as like a this is a strong reunion album.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna call it that.
I mean, yeah, we've listened to some stinkers. I get hating Nothing Is. I thought at first like, oh, they're doing a krautrock type song, and then I was like, oh, they're just looping this shit for 3 hours. I do like Wonder 2 though. That felt like a statement track. Like, okay, we still got this dog in us. It is the most like densely packed sounding thing on the album, and I guess some people could say it's, you know, like a little regressive. Like, why would you listen to Wonder 2 over like anything on Loveless? But I think as a whole on the album, it is a cool. It feels weird calling it like a throwback track, but
I feel pretty much the same as Alex. Nothing Is. I know. I was out. I was totally checked out. I feel the same way about that one. But Wonder 2, it has, even though it does have like those dance drums that I'm not super, I just don't like. Period. It does feel like a typhoon of effects on this one. It's such a swirly song. It's kind of like, it feels like you're like in the center of a tornado kind of thing, and it's a really kind of inaccessible song from that angle, because it is. I mean, it's just so unusual and overbearing and busy. It's a lot of busy effects. I was in the end, I can say that about most, I singing about this song, but I can say it about a lot of the album. It's just, I was more underwhelmed by the songwriting and was craving more songwriting. We got plenty of textures, so many textures. It feels great. They sound amazing. Sonically, it's a wonderful album. I was craving more songwriting.
I think that's understandable, but also like after Loveless, like
it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Mike, with like the Kevin Shields. Like, it's not like the reason it was such a long break is just because there was no inspiration. Like, I'm not going to dial it in. So like, this is, I guess, inspiration, right? Like what we see here to him anyway. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is sort of recasting like the classic sound, but it's just different approaches. And I think on the whole, a little gentler. Like, is there noisy stuff on here? I know I've been asking that like every fucking album, but like,
not
much.
I think, Wonder 2 is it. And I kind of wish like there's part of me where I'm like, should have gone like full, not like full trip hop, but you know, like the more like dance, like just embrace that, because it does almost feel like a tale of two albums in a way.
Yeah, it. I like that it is not. Well, it does have plenty in common with Loveless, with just the overall floatiness of it. It's not trying to be it. It's not trying to. He feels like he's not out of ideas, which is refreshing, and it's also not that surprising considering that he kind of was dormant for a long time, only doing little things here and there. But it makes me curious to. I'm kind of like split between where it can go after this, because it could either be something fucking way different, which would be, I think, pretty interesting and fun, or it could just be deeper into this rabbit hole of even more fucking, this.
I hope not.
I hope
there's
not.
so much shoegaze in the world, and like
shoegaze.
there's a whole revival of shoegaze
It
that's
is,
been like
yeah.
super popular in the last like 5-6 years. Some of it is cool because it kind of like is popular in like punk and hardcore circles, like shoegaze bands. They've kind of been like intermixed into that.
I've noticed that with my friend who listens to hardcore. Like sometimes there's like these hardcore adjacent bands where I'm like, wait, why? And then she has to like explain to me. It's like, well, they were in hardcore, whatever. It's a whole thing. But so yeah, you're correct. But I would say even like Slow Dive, I put their most recent album on one of my year-end lists, and that was like more electronic driven and kind of not shoegaze. So I get where you're coming from.
Totally. Slow Dive is a very interesting band to bring up because they're very similar to MVB in that they both have like My Bloody Valentine, they have like 3 classic albums that people love, and then they went away for a long time, and then their reunion album came a few years after this one. Like I want to say like 2015, 2016. People loved it, and it's a great record, and it's not really a shoegaze album. I mean, and then they got the new one that came out that's also really good.
I mean, that's the big two of shoegaze, right? My Bloody Valentine and Slow Dive. I don't know if they have a big 4, but that's the big 2 right there.
There's a big 4.
There is.
Sure. Oh no, I don't know if like officially, but I'm sure we could concoct
if you think of them, text it to me.
I nominate Anthrax.
Anthrax. Anthrax and Testament and Exorcist. Exodus. They don't get their due.
Yeah. Let's bring them into the shoegaze world. Maybe they'll do a little better there.
In a weird way, we saw fucking Anthrax play with Death Heaven for some reason.
That's true.
Like,
pretty cool.
Yeah. There's your 6 degrees.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
As for more recent news and what's happening, what's planned anyway, or speculated, this piece says, since then, meaning this album, there's been nothing in the way of new music, although they have signed a deal with Domino, which reissued their back catalog from You Made Me Realize onward this year, and Shield insists a new album is imminent, so he says, or possibly a double album, or possibly an album and some other tracks. And his quote is, "I don't feel I've got to make this grand statement in one go. I can get away with just putting stuff out." But definitely something, he says. They are booking in time at the vinyl pressing plant now. That's what they say. The thing is, he says, he always intended My Bloody Valentine to release more music than they have. I write a lot of songs and they're quite good and I quite like them. And I'm thinking, well, I'm sure if I put them out, I would be at least as consistent as anyone else. But he pauses and sighs. When a band releases an album and it's not really good, I feel bad. But when music makes you feel good, it's like the best. There's a special magical thing that happens. It's not easy to compare. And that thing becomes the only thing I'm interested in. It has to have that effect on me. If it doesn't have that effect, then I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to be part of it. Well, that explains the fucking feet dragging, because they said there was going to be a couple EPs out in 2018 that were pushed to 2019, and there's been radio silence since then. Yeah. So Tom noted on the bottom of the notes, he's like, well, maybe if we can magically make Acid Bath reform out of nowhere, I'm confident we'll see a new MBV release suddenly appear this year.
Give the people what they want. A D'Angelo My Bloody Valentine tour with acid bath opening up.
That was almost very, very sexual. And then acid bath came in.
Oh, I'm pretty sure those are this Rob Zombie lyrics. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Fucking hillbilly bullshit.
Yeah, were they from Louisiana, right? From the Bayou? or something?
Acid bath? Yeah.
Yeah.
I meant Rob Zombie hillbilly bullshit, not acid bath. I actually like acid bath.
Oh, yeah. Hillbilly Deluxe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hellbilly or whatever the hell.
Hell, yeah.
Anyway, well, we made it. We did it. Holy crap. Now, let's do a little recap. Jamil, do the honors.
Worst least was the Tremolo EP. Personal favorite Isn't Anything. And
Tremolo?
best, Loveless. Am I
think you
forgetting
cha-
my? Oh no!
Once you put the first one,
Yes,
it's
Oh,
okay. It's been a long.
it would have been Tremolo.
would've been
Now,
Tremolo.
yeah. It would have been, but it is actually This Is Your Bloody Valentine, the first album.
And then
that is a sane, logical thing to make. Unlike me, for me, you made me realize personal favorite, immaculate, amazing EP. Best is Loveless. I don't think there's any album that sounds like it, and it's weird and dense and an onslaught on my senses. And because I'm weird and not a coward, worst least favorite, MBV, but still a very enjoyable comeback album, and there's a lot I dig on there. But I think if we're talking about the albums that are canon, then it's got to be MBV.
as for me, worst least favorite, This Is Your Bloody Valentine. It's hilarious and strange. But if we weren't counting that, my worst would be Glider. That would be my worst. So and just to prove how much of a not coward I am, Feed Me Your Kiss, personal favorite, and fucking Isn't Anything best. No one's going on record with that. All right, and I'm not doing it to be controversial. I'm doing it because it's just how I felt when I heard the damn album. I apologize for nothing. I think it's beautiful. But thank you so much for listening and watching and hanging out. Thank you to Jamil for joining us in this marathon of an episode with all the homework and all the talking. Jesus Christ, you did it,
dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. It was awesome.
Do you have any plugs, writing anything in the?
Not really, because I'm semi-retired podcaster at this point, but I am bringing it back. I just don't know when exactly and what and under what. It's going to change in some way, and I'm still trying to work that out. So I'm reforming in some kind of way.
I mean, you had also your podcast is called The Sonic Cloth. Yeah, the episode with the guy from Chat Pile. Have you had any other notable guests on there for people to kind of get excited about besides me?
Yeah. I've had a few. I gotta go back and think. Yeah, I had Jeremy from Temporary Residence to talk about a band called Cerberus Shoal. I loved that episode. It's probably one of my favorites. I had another podcast, the rap podcast Secret House Against, on to talk about the Billy Woods discography. That was an amazing one.
Oh, those guys are
and
also those guys are rad. I started listening to their stuff after you were on Secret House. So
yeah, they're dope. They're the best. They know their shit.
I'm looking forward to hear, like, they kind of keep me in tune with what's going on in hip hop.
Yeah, they got their ears to the underground like better than anyone.
Absolutely.
And then maybe one more. I did a cool episode with John Rosenthal from that blog Invisible Oranges, where we talked about weirdo black metal, and he's like he's a total expert on that subject. So
that sounds
was
delightful.
that was the first episode I listened to. Oh, your pod. Yeah.
Oh, word.
Yeah, that episode is cool as fuck.
Nice.
Yeah, I kick around genre like a football. You know what I mean? Like, I just try and scare people. I like bring people in through one thing, and then like the next episode I'm trying to like scare them away.
That's the best way. That's good marketing. And you can follow me on all social media at Pounder Monkey. You can follow Alex at
Octatron 3030 on Blue Sky. The Instagram is gone. Deleted it.
Is it gone?
I mean, technically, I think I have like 30 days to revive it, but I've deleted. I deleted it. It's off my phone.
I'm on it so infrequently that I don't even notice when people are not on it anymore. I just go there for like one group chat, and then even then I kind of just read it and then just leave. But they're good people. They're good friends. I'll talk when I talk.
Sure.
And our history guy, Tom Osman, you can follow on all social media at Tom Osman Sounds, as well as TomOsmanSounds.com for all his music and his podcast, Whatever Comes Next, where he covers a bunch of underground music, interviews, indie musicians. You can find links to that in the description. My EP, you can link to that in the description as well. And baby, patreon.com/everyalbumever. That's where you go. Bonus episodes, 2 bonus episodes a month. You get to see our schedules in advance. And if you're there and you see the schedule in advance and you see that we might not be covering things that we should be covering, a la this episode, let me know in a comment. It's very helpful. You get to vote on polls to decide what we're covering next. In a few weeks, we're going to be covering part one of our more recent poll winners, which is going to be a very hefty multi-part episode. And you can join the Discord, be part of the community, just like Jamil. Hang out, talk some shit, talk nerd stuff. Yeah, anything you want, really, music related. You think there's no one that likes that weird shit you like? That's not true. There are us. We are us. We like it too. In addition to that, you can suggest brand new albums from this year for us to cover on EA singles episodes. And if you're tier 2, if you're bigger than Jesus, then you can suggest a full ass discography, a long, usually 2-hour plus episode like this one. For us to, yeah. So go there for that. You can also suggest bonus episodes for Patreon when you're tier 2. There's a lot of stuff. It's very fun. It's very, very, very cool. Okay. Now, wrapping it up. I think it's only fair.
I did forget to prepare Jamil. I totally forgot about this as our guest.
Would you like to do the honors, Jamil? A final song.
I did forget to prepare you for that.
A song to go out on?
Yeah.
Final song for the episode.
Okay, so like I initially want to say Sometimes, because that's like the end credit song, but I'm going to go with You Made Me Realize, because I think we all like fucking lit up when we heard that song.
Nice.
Very nice. I am happy with that decision. Hell yeah. So thank you so much for listening and watching. Thank you to Jamil once again for joining us. See you next time. See ya.